Never give up on you. 8. Someone came to rob me of my wife. If I still don't make a move, then I be giving you bastards extra thoughts. Smirking very dangerously, a coat of ominous energy now surrounds the demon lord in readiness for combat. I remember you were exactly like this as well. Back then you would do anything for her, even if it means acting as a beggar in order to win some pity points. I didn't pay you any heed because I thought that with my bond with her, our long-standing relationship of someone who grew up together, would be enough to stop her from going to anyone else. Letting his word pause there, a mild fluctuation of emotion finally takes hold in Chewy God's voice. But in the end, she chose you. Honestly, I envied you in the past. You were able to let go of your pride for her, abandon your dignity, and even forsake the world for her. If I could have done the same, then maybe she wouldn't have given you the chance at all. Based on the face Deetsung was making after hearing all that, he clearly thought otherwise. You think too highly of yourself. She is my wife. Even if I have to exhaust my everything, I would have won her over regardless of what you did. Despite the mockery, Chewy God didn't pay it any heed and instead continued to speak on his own. Then why are you hurting her? You went so far back then, even willing to forsake the world, so why did you chase her away now? In the ears of this demon lord, that interrogating tone only sounded hilarious. You got no right to question me. What I did or didn't do is none of your concern, nor is wife's business as well. Yen Yen is my wife, the mother of my child, all that is related to her should only concern me. No, you are wrong. Chewy God shakes his head in disagreement. I'm merely late this time, I still have a chance to make her mine. That instantly infuriated Deetsung. In light of that irritable comment right there, more than enough to make him explode already, he somehow managed to suppress the urge to clobber the bastard in front of himself. His urgency to seek out Bai Yen apparently triumphant that jealous heart. Is that what you think? Clicking his tongue like he's holding the other side in contempt. Too bad for you, I won't give you that opportunity to steal my wife. Not in the past like you claim, and mostly importantly not now. This time around it was Chewy God who showed a face. Why is he not attacking? According to his usual demeanor, Deetsung should have attacked me by now. I will deal with you once I find my wife. Until then you just wait. A flicker of killing intent promptly beams out of those eyes and answered the expectation in the other side's mind. Done, and without anything more to be said, Deetsung moved swiftly and flew towards the general direction of Fairy City. He may not know the exact location of where his wife and child went, however, that doesn't mean he couldn't track by following the faint scent they left behind. He's changed somehow, but I can't tell what. Murmuring to himself, the unparalleled man in white watches on as the purplish figure disappears into the horizon. Chewy God may have the will to take Bai Yen back, but that's only under the criteria that she wants to return. If she doesn't, then he's not going to force anything, for he's long lost that right ages ago. Within a hidden valley, Bai Yen now lays in a patch of grass with only a faint awareness to her surroundings. Wang Deqiu, that bastard, he did not tell me I would be teleported without warning. She wanted to pry open those tired eyes several times already. Unfortunately, despite her best effort, those eyelids just wouldn't listen, like it's been sealed shut with 1,000 weights. Even so, Bai Yen could still vaguely make out intermediate bursts of words between a conversation. Big brother, there is an unconscious little lass here. Che, I say, she does have one heck of a pretty face there. Hey, brother, aren't you a bit too old to be aiming for a young missy like this? I have to admit though, if I was a few decades younger, then I too would be wowed by that face. Anyways, her body is what I'm more interested in. She would be a great seed to be a cultivator like us. Never give up on you. 9. Under the insistence of her will, Bai Yen finally opened those eyes. Perhaps it's out of habit, but she wanted to reach down to rub her son's head that's supposed to be in her embrace. However, what came into touch was nothing but air. Turning pale at the realization, the last pang of sleepiness swiftly escapes that head, forcing her panicking heart to jerk that body up. Looking around, There's no sign of her son at all. Hello little lady, are you awake now? Just as Bai Yan was scanning left and right for Bai Xiaqin's whereabout, that's when her ears picked up the elderly voice from the front. Startled slightly at knowing there's others around, she peers over to the source and discovered two seniors of considerable age standing there smiling at herself. Are you looking for this fox? One of the seniors in white readily picks up the little critter from his side and hands it over, sending a wave of relief over to the receiving end. Bai Yan didn't hesitate at all. She moved those hands so quick that it's as if she's getting the most precious treasure in this world. Dare Dragoni. While she did recover her son, it didn't take long for Bai Yan to realize she's still missing one other child. Panicking again inside, I'm sorry for being blunt, but have you seen a little girl that should be with me? Little girl? My dear, I only saw you and this little fox here, I didn't see any little girl when we found you. The old senior wearing the white robe answers, shaking his head to indicate he didn't. Biting those lips, if Dragoni is not here then where did she end up? Or did the teleportation process go awry and send her to another location? This isn't good. With her timid personality, she would definitely be very scared in a new and strange environment. A regret now grips the woman's heart. If she had known things would end up like this then she wouldn't have gone soft-hearted and let the girl tag along. Lassie, you still haven't told me why you ended up in my backyard yet. The second elder in grey robe asks with a broad smile. Backyard? Bai Yan became dumbfounded. This vast forested valley is a backyard for these two elders. Working fast in her brain, she quickly came up with a workable story for the situation. I'm sorry, I didn't know this was someone's backyard. I only ended up here by mistake. Oh, don't worry about it, this is not an issue at all. Ha ha ha. The white-robed senior heartily laughs to soothe the mood. This is my brother over there. We are elders of the Misty Fairy House. My name is Zhongnan and he is Zhongbei. I see that your constitution is quite excellent, so I like to ask you this question. Are you interested in becoming our disciple? Bai Yan didn't answer right away and began to weigh her options. First and foremost was to locate Dragoni, of course. There's no way she could leave the little girl alone like this in unknown territory. But what's the best way to do that left a lot of room for debate. Smiling now, her eyes wandered over to the two seniors. All right, I'm willing to become your disciple. I've already got 3 shifas anyway, adding another 2 won't hurt at this rate. It's just a little more extra work caring for them. However, her expression promptly turned stern. My daughter is missing right now. Can I bother both shifas to help me find her? Ha! Zhongnan, older, genuinely laughs with joy in that voice. As long as you recognize us as your Shifu then anything is fine. I say Lassie, I've already checked your body earlier. Your bone structure is absolutely amazing according to my examination. At most in another 20 years and you will reach the king rank, a level comparable to our own. Checked my body. Examined my bone structure. Eeh. The woman's complexion was darker than the bottom of a burnt pot at this moment. This old fart actually touched my body while I was unconscious. If he wasn't so old, I would have called him a leech, a pervert. And 20 years to break through into the king rank. Didn't I already go way past that and into the monarch rank not so long ago? Oh right, what strength is your cultivation at? I've checked earlier but I couldn't get a good sense of your current level at all. Zhongnan's brow wrinkled into a knot over the strangeness. This girl is full of mystery. Never give up on you, 10, but as the old saying goes, wealth always lies in danger. This lassie's constitution is so strong, she will inevitably become the youngest king rank individual within the fairy Misty House. Ho ho, or maybe even a monarch rank. Bai Yan rubs her nosy shyly at the beaming gazes coming her way. I just reached the earth rank. There's no way she could bring herself to explain that she's already at the monarch rank, otherwise these two fellas would definitely blast her out in the next second. Earth rank? Zhongbei, younger, frowns and got angry. Who was your former Shifu? How did he train you? To think you are only at the earth rank with your body structure. Don't worry, as long as you follow our tutelage then you will surely break into the sky rank in no time. When hearing this, Bai Yen could only silently apologize to her 3 silly shifus back at the Holy Land. This sort of pitfall could only be shouldered by them this time. While on the other side, the older brother Zhongnan was very pleased by his younger brother's reaction. All smiles in his face. Little girl, we still haven't gotten your name yet. Mind telling us since you've recognized us at your shifus? It's Bai Yen, and he is Bai Xiachen. Bai Yen promptly raises her son up to show the 2 seniors, all the while making a proud and warm smile at the same time. Towards this demeanor, the elders definitely found it strange, for it's the look of a mother introducing their child. Ah! How can a fox be her child? That's just silly. Hurrying to sway their head to lose that idea, Zhongnan and Zhongbei didn't even want to go down that route. When Bai Yen eventually came out of the hidden valley under the guidance of her new shifus, she soon understood what they meant by this being their backyard. It's exactly like they claim, there's no lie or falseness that this vast stretch of forested land was their home. Fortunately, there are other ways to reach this valley, otherwise Bai Yen would have trouble explaining how she managed to get in without rousing suspicion. And since her arrival at the Misty Fairy House, the 2 elders have kept their promise in searching for Dragony. As for Bai Yen herself, she on the other hand was being forced to train day and night while under the scrutinizing eyes of them both. In the end, this poor woman could only hold back her urge to go out and do as they say. It's too obvious if she starts running around so early. Of course, when talking about training, Bai Yen wasn't really improving her cultivation. For an earth rank cultivator, the amount of energy fluctuation in the air was minuscule at best in comparison to her own level, that's why she could only pretend by sucking in a small amount into her body. Now that leaves the poor baby fox who's been bored out of his mind. After a few days of this, Bai Xiachens finally had it and started moping to his mother on this day. You want to go out to play? Bai Yen arches her brow and asked. The little fox hurriedly nodded, for being bored to death wasn't out of the question at this point. Son, you must be patient for a while longer. Once I locate the blood vine then I can restore you to your former self. Sighing helplessly, Bai Yen also felt frustrated at her current predicament. According to Chui God's information, the blood vine was considered a treasure to the Misty Fairy House. If she wants to get her hands on the herb then the best course of action would be to win over the 2 seniors' trust. Hanging that head in disappointment, the little fox promptly pulled those ears down like a dejected child. If he was still in his human form, it would definitely be the look of a puppy-eyed crying boy. But, Bai Yen suddenly made a mischievous smile. Today, your 2 grandchifus are out for a trip. We can take this chance to go out and look for Dragony, how about that? The news immediately brought delight to her son's face. Raising that head, Bai Xiachen now shined with sparkles in those eyes. Fake Goddess 1. Within a luxurious mansion, a loud beast like Roar Rocks suddenly rocks the place, sending everyone inside into a state of urgency. Chief, the young lord's condition is acting up again. Among the crowd of people gathered presently here was an old man wearing a linen-colored robe. I suggest we go seek out Bai Chang Feng, the leader of the medicine sect. Perhaps he would have a cure for the young lord's condition. The one called Chief and current lord of the Misty Fairy only wrinkled his temple before eventually issuing out a sigh of frustration. I've already went to him not long after his birthday. Sadly, after I listed all the symptoms of my son to him, I was told he couldn't do anything to help and didn't know of any cure. An uproar promptly burst out among the crowd. If Bai Chang Feng couldn't do it then who else in this world could? It can't be, the young lord is going to have to spend the rest of his life like this? However, Bai Chang Feng did leave me a message. The chief of the Misty Fairy House allows his high-standing gaze to loom over the group, signaling he's quite serious in what he's about to say next. A sickness of the heart must be cured using the cause. I remember my son Yun Feng met a girl after leaving home back then. Pity, fate likes to toy with the males of the Misty Fairy House. Because we are unable to choose our own marriages here, I could only task some of you to bring him back. After that, Yun Feng has been in this state ever since. Now, according to the instructions I got, as long as we find that woman, then the demon in Yun Feng's heart will unravel. The chief's hand had clutched into a tight ball by then. Elder Muzhen, you were one of the main people I sent out that year to bring back my son. Do you know where that woman went or who she is? The female known as Elder Muzhen was a woman who maintained her appearance very well. In fact, due to that young-looking face, it's very hard to detect the traces of aging there if not for the long strands of white hair exposing her true seniority. One could easily mistake her for a fair maiden like all the rest. Slightly lowering those eyes to hide the flicker of darkness in there, the female elder stepped forward and spoke, reporting to Chief, that woman is not worthy of being a member of our fairy misty house. If she does come, then she would surely stir up a wave of trouble for everyone. Why is that the case? The chief's expression turned heavy and grim. Back then years ago when his son got into a fling with the unknown girl, he himself couldn't leave due to a certain matter at hand. Therefore, whether it be the girl's face or her family background, he knew nothing aside from words of mouth. Now to be informed of this unfortunate news by Muzhen, the idea that emerged in his head just now was again strained. But if Yu Feng can be healed and return to his old self, what does it matter? Likely able to see the hesitant and struggling indecision within the chief, the objective female elder promptly sneered in a shady manner, "Chief, that girl is nothing more than a daughter of an average family. If not for that face, she could never have seduced the young lord." Yun Feng wouldn't be such a superficial person. The chief's face now grew ugly at having his son being called out for being superficial. I refuse to believe my son is a bastard who only knows how to take in one's look. Of course that's not the case, Chief. That woman isn't only born proficient in seducing the opposite sex, she's also highly skilled with musical instruments and understands how to string men along, hence the reason for the young lord's fall for her. Muzhen's heart immediately grew venomous and could be heard in the undertone of that voice. Furthermore, the girl isn't a chaste woman either. When I went to retrieve the young lord that year, I personally saw her hooking up with multiple males. The chief's heart promptly sank at the last bit. It's one thing to be born ordinary, but to think she would be like that as well. In truth, this father never wanted to do what he did back then, even if the girl was so terrible. However, if he didn't, then the Misty Fairy House would surely offend that person. By then none would be facing a favorable fate. Chief, I also want to add, the main reason that girl left on her own is because a secular family of the main world tempted her with gold and treasure. And since the young lord never revealed his background or influence, the girl chose to go her separate ways after failing to resist the temptation. Fake Goddess, 2, bang. The chief slams his fist against the nearest table and allowed the burning flame in his eyes to seethe forward. How dare she abandon my son for a mere mundane? Under that violent appearance of their lord, the audiences were all too scared to utter a single word in protest. However, there was one individual who didn't falter in fear, and that's Elder Muzhen. The woman was secretly snickering inside over her own success. Want to let that woman enter the Misty Fairy House? Quit dreaming. I've killed that girl years ago, so how can she ever show herself again? Forget it, the chief tiredly closes his eyes in acceptance. Leaning against the chair he found behind himself, I want to rest. All of you retreat for now until my summoning. Yes, Chief. Arching their fists, the crowd promptly left for the outside. Throughout the whole process, both Zhongnan and Zhongbei brothers were keeping to themselves on the sideline without uttering anything. They knew under such circumstances their opinions are going to be ignored regardless of what they said. As such, the attendance today was nothing more than for show. Now it's done and over with, it's normal for the two to leave and return to their home where their new disciple should be waiting. Wu Wei, Chief. Just as everyone has finished departing this place, leaving only the lonely father in this luxurious mansion, that's when an impressive-looking woman waltzed in through the door. In comparison to elder Muzhin, who kept up a fine appearance despite the old age, this newcomer in the light blue dress could only be considered a true beauty. How come you came? The chief hurried to greet his wife after hearing her voice. Didn't I say I will handle Yunfeng's matter? Handle? Jun Tianyu, wife, only sneered in return after hearing that. You've been saying you will handle our son's matter for how many years now? Do you have a solution? If those alchemists can't cure my son, then why are you hesitating in looking for that girl? But, Muzhin, I don't care what she says or what she claims about that girl, I only know I want to save my son from his current state. The motherly instinct in Jun Tianyu was now fully coming out, causing her very existence to exude an aura of pain and sadness. Regardless of her character, I will take her into our home so long as she can turn things around with our son. Seeing his precious wife quickly devolving into a sobbing state, Chief Wei Wei could no longer contain his emotions. Hurrying to pat the woman on the back to help soothe that mood, don't worry, I will definitely find a way. Bai Chang Feng may not be able to cure our son, but that doesn't mean other alchemists out there couldn't. I'm sure there are others who could. Fine. Jun Tianyu suddenly stared straight into her husband's eye and said, I will give you 3 months. In that time, if you can't do something about our son's condition or find an alchemist who could cure him, then I'm leaving on my own in search of that girl. 3 months? Now it was Chief Wu Wei's turn to make a frown. He only said those stuff in order to get his wife to stop crying. Who could have guessed the smart woman would use it against himself like so? Oh my goodness, where am I supposed to find an alchemist who could rival Bai Chang Feng of the medicine sect? But then a flash of light sparked within the man's eye, like he just remembered something. I remember now. Wife, Bai Chang Feng mentioned High Granddaughter is also an alchemist and a very good one at that. Maybe she can cure Yunfeng's illness. I went there before after the man's birthday, but sadly my timing was off and the girl was gone already. Really? Then what are you waiting for? Hurry and send some of our people out to search for that girl. The mother's face now glistened with hope. Even if the possibility was slim, she's not going to give up, not when it involves her son's future. Making a bittersweet smile, Chief Wu Wei could only shake his head over the woman's quick change in mood. As negative as he was over the chance of success regarding his own idea, he couldn't exactly go back on his words now. At the same time, while things were moving at the other end, Elder Muzhin had just finished returning to her own manor. Taking a sip of tea from the cup handed to her by the maid, the woman coldly snapped at the poor girl for no reason, Go call Tian Ling over for me. Yes, Elder. The maid swiftly retreated, too afraid to meet eyes with the mistress of the house. Not long after, a senior old man quickly walked over and respectfully arched his fist. Greetings, Elder, did you summon me? Fake Goddess, 3, Tian Ling. Did things go as I instructed back then? Is the woman really dead? Muzhin slightly narrows her eye as she asked the man. Please be assured, Elder, I've done exactly as you instructed. Not only is she seriously injured while I confronted her, she also fell off the cliff during the final moment. There's no way she could have survived from that height. That's good to hear. Heaving a long sigh of relief, the woman turned cheeky like she's done something to be proud of. And to think the chief would want to bring such a girl into our misty fairy house. Based on what can someone like that join our ranks? Moreover, the young lord is the one fancied by the goddess. A spark promptly flashed within the Tian Ling's eye at the mention. Elder, it's been many years since then, I'm sure the goddess has long given up on the young lord. Why don't you? Outrageous. The woman snapped, roaring out at the implication of those words. I am an elder of the young master, how dare you imply I would have ulterior motives against him? Those words must never be mentioned again. It's true this elderly old woman has fanciful ideas about Yunfeng, young lord, however, that's something she could never bring to the surface. Forget about the chief or his wife, even the other elders in the Misty Fairy House would gun for her life if they ever learn of this. But logic has never been a strong point when it came to the female sex, especially regarding the affairs of love. This Mujin understand everything. From how much of a taboo her interests are, to the need to keep her emotions in check. Nevertheless, the grudge of not being able to show or win the man's heart just because she's older by a whole generation still nudges at her inner heart. You retreat first. Remember, one can freely eat to their heart's content, but words can never be spoken without forethought. Clenching her fist over the warning, Elder Mujin hides the flicker of killing intent swimming through her eye. Tian Ling knows too much about me. I must remove him before anything leaks now that the chief is becoming increasingly more wary of the past event. No one must know what I did. At the same time over in the celestial realm, a group of young men and women was currently holding a gathering. Of course, what good would a party be if there's no maids around to service them? Though most of the service ladies are hardly worthy to be called beauties, they are perfectly adequate to be called dainty in their appearance. However, there was one wearing a green maid dress who did stand out among the crowd with her superb smile. Sir, allow me to pour the tea for you. In order to show herself, the woman wearing the green dress went ahead to ready the teapot. Unfortunately for the lady though, perhaps it's just bad luck or carelessness, a droplet of the fluid inside the pot ended up spilling over during the process and landed on the young man's hand. Hiss. Without surprise, the young man promptly slapped the woman's face after being tinged, causing the unsuspecting female to jerk backwards in painful fright. Useless thing, you can't even pour tea properly. Scram, I don't want to see you around here. The young man roars. Yes sir, right away. The woman in green hurries to do as told, all the while trying hard to keep those tears from trickling down. But then as soon as she's walked out the door, that's when her true character showed itself. No longer innocent or sad, there's only a cold stern look. These bastards, only knowing how to bully us who have no status in the celestial realm. No matter, I may be a lowly maid here in the realm of gods, but in the world below, I am the supreme being. Smirking proudly now, it's been a while since I went down there, guess it's time I made a visit to accept their worship. The ability to transfer her avatar into the human world was something this maid accidentally came across. Aside from the bosses in the celestial realm, it's likely only she knows the method to transverse between worlds. That's why she would go from time to time to harass the mortals. It gives her a sense of existence and a way to comfort that injured heart. To think, the one whom the members of the Misty Fairy House treated as a deity all these years would turn out to be nothing more than a maid. If they ever learn of this truth, what would they think? Fake Goddess 4. At this time the members of the Misty Fairy House are currently gathered in wait by the altar, their eyes filled with worshipping light as they waited. Suddenly, a beam of green light materializes from above and descends to the ground, revealing the fairy-like woman in green. Greetings to the goddess. Aside from Jun Tianyu, mother, who did not come to pay her worship, everyone else has now taken to their knees in a squatting position. The fairy in green makes a faint nod in return before arching her inspecting brow. I've come today with only one goal in mind, has Yunfeng recovered yet? If so, I want to take him away with me this time. Chief Wu Wei grew hesitant and didn't answer for a while. Yunfeng hasn't recovered yet. Please goddess, have mercy on him. What do you mean by have mercy? The woman in green grew furious and snapped back. Are you implying my kind act of taking him with me is an evil deed? This is an act of goodwill from my part, do you hear me? Or are you deliberately trying to hide him from my eyes by pretending he's unwell? Humph, I've recently heard Yunfeng was in a relationship with some woman out there, is that true? Shocked by the last comment, Chief Wu Wei didn't know where the goddess got that information from and was now starting to show a pang of panic in his demeanor. I don't know what kind of magic she used to seduce Yunfeng, but know this, a mere mortal can never compare to a goddess. The maid continues to put on a facade of a high-standing deity despite being a lowly servant herself. Goddess, Chief Wu Wei was now openly frowning. In all the years you've come to us, we've been nothing but respectful out of you being a goddess. However, Yunfeng is my son, can't you spare him? When recalling about the horrid state his son was in due to this so-called goddess, this father would immediately get riled up inside. If not for this woman, then my son would never have turned into his current miserable state. Impudence. The maid glares fire over the implied offense. Nothing but ants, how dare you bunch resist me? I, a goddess, is doing all of you a favor by merely being in your presence. Even those lord deities in the celestial realm must bow down to me when meeting me, and what are you? Despite the bead of sweat coming off of Chief Wu Wei's forehead, the man didn't waver and refused to give in. Do you know about the great war between demons and gods a millennium ago? The maid suddenly starts yapping on with her mouth and brought up a story of old. The demon and god war happened only because of a single woman. She's the mistress of the 4 great sacred beasts, and I am that very woman. Now do you all get it? Whether it be the demon realm or celestial realm, all must surrender under my feet. As for you all, humph, nothing but lowly existences that can't even be worthy to lick my feet. Perhaps it's due to her own arrogance and assumption that none from the celestial realm would descend upon the mortal world, plus the demon realm has been sealed off for ages already, therefore she had no reason to believe her lies would be found even if she exaggerated things to unrealistic level. Sure enough, the hearts of those present were all shaken by the proclamation. They didn't dare to doubt the woman's word at all and just wholeheartedly believed the story. But I had no interest in any of them from the start, it's they who kept entangling around me. Now be grateful that I'm interested in Yun Feng, otherwise none of you could even kneel before me. If one's nose were to suddenly grow longer over every lie they made, then this deceitful maid would surely have a nose longer than any being in existence. However, I'm a kind-hearted goddess, so I will give you all a second chance. In half a month, that's my limit. Afterwards I will return again for him. After saying this, the figure of the woman promptly disappeared like she's never there to begin with. Of course, the main reason this deceitful wench left wasn't because she's done spouting her nonsense, rather it's because her real body back in the celestial realm had just been beaten silly by those young lords and misses. As such, she had no choice but to retract her avatar lest she's discovered by the sharp-witted ones. Youth Exchange, 1. Isn't today's Youth Exchange event being held on the dragon boat nearby? Let's go have a look, I'm sure it will be very exciting and fun to watch. Oh yes, let's go. I heard this time the precious disciple of Elder Muzhin is also attending. From the rumors I've heard, her alchemic skills are top-notch and is very likely to become the next Bai Chang Feng from the medicine sect. Youth Exchange. In the middle of the main street, Bai Yan's footsteps had just stopped after overhearing the passerby's conversation. Stroking the little fox's fur, she curves the corner of her mouth upwards. Do you also want to go? Naturally the little critter nodded vehemently. Showing water in his puppy eyes, the kid looks up hopefully and easily won the battle. Alright, we will go take a look then. Perhaps Dragoni would like such events too and we could find her there. At the end of the day, Bai Yan only wanted to try her luck to see if the missing lass would wind up at such a place. If she's going to aimlessly wander the streets, then it's better to try at a big event where plenty are gathered at once. Then all of a sudden, the mother felt a slight tingle in her hand. It was her son licking the palm of her hand. For a moment, Bai Yan actually fell into a trance and remembered back to the first days of her son being born. Back then the boy was still in his fox form as well. Don't worry my son, I will definitely help you recover. Bai Yan's embrace tightens a notch as she brought the fox up to her cheek for a calming hug. No one can separate us. I won't let them. Dragon River, the prescribed location where the dragon boat was moored. According to legends, it's said that the river was once home to a dragon, hence its name. Just that it's been many centuries since there's been a sighting. At the moment, 2 guards were busy inspecting the visitors with careful scrutiny as the guests boarded the luxurious-looking river boat. If one didn't have a slip then they wouldn't be able to get on, it seems. Son, why don't I take you to some other places to look around? The event requires an invitation before being allowed inside. There's not much to see anyways. What's more, There's no way Dragoni could be aboard if it's a closed-off event, thus making her visit moot. Unfortunately, her thoughts were soon interrupted by a sly-sounding voice from the side. Selling Dragon Boat Invitation, only needs 10,000 gold for it. If you don't buy then it's your loss. 10,000 gold. 10,000 gold for an entry slip. Talk about worst timing. Going dark in her face, Bai Yen turns to the owner of that voice where a sly-looking fatty was holding several invitations in the air with his sloppy hand. The guy was calling out to the coming crowds of people in order to sell his product like those in the market. Then as if the ominous feeling in her mind was destined to come to light, Bai Yen suddenly felt a tug at her sleeve. It was Bai Xiaqin using his puppy eyes and paw to indicate he wanted one of those from the fatty. As much as she detested being scammed by those heartless merchants, Bai Yen couldn't exactly say no to her son when the solution was being placed before her eyes. Walking towards the man, "Are your invitations real?" Seeing how he's finally got some business going, the fatty hurries to put on an iconic smile of a merchant. "Of course, lady. My passes here are all real with the name and family of others, so they're genuine for sure. Look at the top, you can check for yourself about their authenticity." A humph, Bai Yen gives an awkward cough after shooting the names there a glance. "Wouldn't someone find out if I use someone else's name and pass?" "Oh, don't worry about that. Every year during the youth exchange, there are plenty of new participants, so seeing some new faces aren't all that uncommon. You can be at ease if you are worried about being recognized. In other words, whether or not you are discovered by the authority would depend entirely on your own luck." However, based on the crowd's gossiping conversations nearby, plus the words of this fatty, Bai Yen did confirm one point. Youth Exchange, 2. In short, despite the event being called Youth Exchange, it's no more than a gathering for the wealthy and influential to flaunt their younger talents to the world. 10,000 gold for one slip is too expensive. If you lower it to 2,000 then I will take it. The fatty nearly cried at the outrageous proposal. "Sister, can I call you sister? I need 5,000 just to source these invite slips. If I sell them to you for 2,000 each then I'm making a loss on every sale." Although 5,000 wasn't a small number by any means, nevertheless, this was the annual youth exchange. He only needs a couple of wealthy young masters who didn't get an invite to make back the original cost. Afterwards, everything else would be pure profit. Seeing Bai Yen did not give him a clear answer yet, the fatty knew he must sweeten the deal. Gritting his teeth, 8,000, that's as low as I'm willing to go. No answer still. While the fatty wanted to pour some more persuading words right then and there, it appears the time of their dealing must come to an end because the sound of their voices had caught onto the authorities in charge. Jumping into a panic upon seeing the two guards walking their way, the fatty hurried to dump one of his products onto Bai Yan's hand and said, 6,000, and it's yours." Understand she's not going to get a better deal at this point. Bai Yen decides it's best to stop bullying this fatty. Taking out 6 bank notes, she hands it over without problem and immediately hid among the crowd. Thankfully the deal went smoothly because in the next second the two guards had arrived at their spot after breaking through the crowded venue. "Damn that fatty, he sure knows how to run," one of the guards grumpily states his displeasure. "Forget it, the guy runs faster than a rabbit." "Oh yes, I remember there was a girl who was trading with that bastard. Where did she go?" Looking around to scan for signs of the mentioned female, the other guard quickly wrinkles his brow after not finding anyone remotely close to the figure he saw earlier. It wouldn't be so hard if he had gotten a good look at Bai Yan's face. Sadly, he only caught a glimpse of her back and nothing more. Meanwhile in a less crowded corner of an alleyway, Bai Yan was in the middle of disguising herself with a facial veil from the storage bag. This wasn't the mainland after all. It doesn't hurt to be on the careful side. After doing all this, the following procedure to enter the dragon boat went as smoothly as one could imagine. No question, no examination, just a simple glance at the invite slip before being let through the boarding plank. "Quick, look, Miss Mu Leng is coming." "Oh my, the one standing with her is the second son of the chief, Sun Huan. Coming down from the stairs leading up to the second floor was an exquisite-looking girl that wore a deep blue dress. Her looks were definitely extraordinary. Clear and haughty in the eyes, the level of arrogance she portrayed were just right, neither too high nor too low, just the perfect level to allow the males to have some fanciful thoughts while not daring to try anything perverted. It's just that. After seeing the man coming behind her, the only reaction left for the crowds were gasps and astonishment. For one thing, the female could be considered the shining jewel of the new generation in the Misty Fairy House. As for the male, he's a well-known womanizer who only knows how to fool around day in and day out. It's hard to imagine how these two opposing characters could come together. A flower planted atop of a cow dung. That's the sort of wording everyone thought of upon witnessing this image. Of course, none would dare yell out this description in the public. They're not crazy enough to bash on the chief's second son no matter how much of a dastardly man he was. Youth Exchange 3. Miss Muleng, I have some questions with alchemy I would like to ask you, mind helping me with the solution? A young man scampers over to the lady's side and looked on with expectant eyes. When the others saw how the youngster was able to brave the pressure and go on over like so, it's normal for them to be annoyed. However, it also gave them courage to join the fray. In no time at all, this Muleng has become surrounded by excited individuals of various backgrounds. Miss Muleng, your alchemic skills are truly admirable. Forget about being first within the Misty Fairy House, you should be first even among the Medicine Sect and Holy Land. Isn't that right? When I left a couple of days ago to take a short travel in the outside world, I actually heard the Medicine Sect's leader saying he's found his long-lost granddaughter. It's said the girl is more capable than her own grandfather in the art of alchemy, but I say it's nothing more than bluffs and air. How can that person be more skilled than Miss Muleng? Faced with the worshipping looks and flattering compliments of the crowd, this lady actually managed to keep her ego in check. That's something not everyone could do, especially under such circumstances. This goes to show the level of maturity and intellect this girl has, which was clearly above the rest of her peers. I'm sorry everyone, Muleng scans the crowd around herself and spoke in an apologetic tone. Today is the youth exchange, so I can only answer a couple of questions. I fear any more than that would be beyond the time frame allowed in today's event. Also, words of degrading matters like today mustn't be spoken again in public. I hope everyone can remember my advice. The relationship between the Misty Fairy House and the Medicine Sect has never been the best to begin with. This could be seen in the disputes that's constantly occurring between the disciples of both powers. Now if word were to be spread of her name in such manner, then it could only cause trouble for herself. Look at that. Miss Muleng's alchemic skill is not only high, she's also not an arrogant woman like the one from the Medicine Sect. What a wondrous woman who cares for others. Thoughts like these were running rampant among the naive youngsters. It's simply too easy to sway a mind that's not fully matured or experienced the harshness of the world. Meanwhile at one corner of the boat, Bai Yen was listening in on everything with her brows arched. It can't be right. I still got hit when lying on the floor. What's this all about? I'm just attending some random event and things still ended up on my head. Understanding his mother's woe, the little fox licks the back of her hand in a soothing gesture. With that done, the faithful son then shifts his gaze over to Muleng. Just that instead of the warmth look he shows to Bai Yen, the boy's eye gradually turned into a bloodthirsty red like his old man's when irked. The lecherous man standing next to the shining girl didn't care for all the attention, he's used to this sort of fan craze in his life even if it was the negative version. Instead, he's now focused on Bai Yen who's standing in the corner. What's wrong? Muleng asks, her brow furrowing after noticing the oddity. Did something happen? It's nothing. That said, the womanizer known as Sun Huan then retracted his gaze before being caught. For some strange reason, he's getting a familiar vibe from the unknown woman wearing that veil like he's seen her somewhere. I must be imagining things. Although Muling didn't raise a comment over this, she did however turn her head over to the same direction as her partner. Almost immediately, her forehead had wrinkled into a knot before eventually loosening them again with a smile on that face. "It getting late everyone, let's go inside first." During the exchange, "I'm sorry, but I will have to limit it to 10 questions." The crowd got quiet and turned to their seats as instructed. Thankfully the dragon boat was a huge vessel and could accommodate this many. Otherwise, some poor saps would have to standing during the entire occasion. "Miss Muling, I have a question to ask you." Youth Exchange 4. A young maiden had taken off from her seat to be the first to ask a question. Though Muling's answer was nothing but a half-heeded attempt, it's nevertheless still good enough in the eyes of these youngsters who listened intently to those words. In their eyes, even if the advice resulted in failure or doesn't hold substantive help to themselves, it's still coming from the number genius of the younger generation. Just that fact alone was enough to sway them to believe the high-standing lady. Of course, not everyone would react the same way. Bai Yan's heard everything from her location, including the answers to the rest of the questions, and her only response was a shake of her head in disappointment. Among the 8 questions answered thus far, Muling managed to answer 5 of them correctly. However, due to the lady's lack of insight, her answer ended making the question more complicated than it should be when easier explanations could be had. As for the remaining 3 that came out of her mouth, they're bound to result in failure when those people go back to try the method mentioned today. But it's not her business and ways, so Bai Yan didn't want to get involved. Sadly, as the old saying goes, trouble comes knocking even if you don't look for it. Due to Sun Huan's extra attention from earlier, Muling herself had also taken extra care to pay a closer look at Bai Yan whenever she could. So, when the woman unintentionally shook her head in disappointment after hearing the 8th answer, it immediately fell into the eyes of the shining girl on the stage. Pausing in her speech, "You there, why are you shaking your head after my answering? Could it be, miss, are you disagreeing with my findings? If so, please enlighten us here today. I'm a very open person and is fine with criticism." In actual fact, Muling does hold a lot of confidence in her own knowledge regarding matters of alchemy. Therefore, this was her form of retaliating against the mockery of others. Well, mockery in her eyes anyways. For a moment, everyone's eyes were now focused on the indicated woman who's wearing the facial veil. "Which family are you from? How can you be so rude? It's not every day a famed alchemist is willing to answer our dilemmas. If you are here then you should just quietly listen, why shake your head?" That's right. Muling is the number 1 person in the Misty Fairy House, so her advices couldn't be wrong. Even if you envy her, you should still try to hide it and not make your thoughts so obvious. Otherwise you will just be left behind and tossed overboard, you know. Everyone's clearly disgruntled by Bai Yan's interruption, so their gazes are now cold and angry, like the fault lies entirely on her. Seriously? I just got hit for the 2nd time even though I'm lying down. Pausing in her fingers that's caressing the little fox, Bai Yan curves the corner of her mouth into a smirk. "Number 1 person? According to my memories, I thought the number 1 person is Yun Feng, the eldest son of the current chief." Ha! The young man who spoke out first with the taunts began to laugh humorously. "Yun Feng? That's from the older generation. For our generation, the number 1 spot unquestionably lies with Miss Muling." In actual fact, everyone present understood the only reason Muling could be called the number 1 genius of the Misty Fairy House was due to her Shifu being elder Muzhen. Coupled this fact with the lack of a 3rd generational heir thus far, it's normal for everyone to recognize this lady as the strongest contender right now. What's more, even if the current chief's 2 sons had a child, that's for the next generation, so it's no threat to them who are now mostly in their teens or coming close to adulthood. Oh. Bai Yan continues to smile meaningfully. Then what if the 2nd young master of the Misty Fairy House had an illegitimate child from the outside? Would her position as the number 1 person still stand? Ahumph. Hearing the topic being diverted to himself now, the womanizer hurried to cut in lest some bad rumor starts spreading. holding up his hand to gain everyone's attention. I know I can be quite the womanizer and definitely spent a lot of nights with various women. However, I must make one point clear, I do not have any children of my own yet. Had many women, but no children. Bai Yan cocked one of her brows in an inspecting fashion. Then shouldn't you go have yourself checked out by now? There's an alchemic master right beside you, why not have her take a look to give you some treatment? Since others are deliberately throwing the fault above her head, then it's only normal for Bai Yan to turn things around and shift it back to someone else. She's never been a person who takes bullcrap without retaliation. Youth Exchange 5. Originally the womanizer had wanted to take a sip of water then to help soothe some of the pressure off his back, but to suddenly hear that dastardly comment from out of the blue, he just couldn't take it anymore and splurged the liquid right out of his mouth. Do we have a grudge or something? Why is she gunning for me at every turn? The man eyes the veiled woman with a blaming look. Unbeknownst to Xian Huan, they really do have a grudge between them both, and a heavy one at that. Unfortunately for this man though, no matter what he did to think back to the past, he just couldn't recall who this strange woman was or if he knew her for that matter. All of a sudden, a single face popped into his head after working it so hard. It's a peerless contour of a gorgeous young lady who causes his balls to hurt upon thinking about her. The incident happened years ago when he made a trip to the outside world. He incidentally met a young lady who definitely had quite the look, that's why he went up to her in hopes of teasing her a few words and even took the opportunity to give a slight touch of the face. For that mistake, he paid a dear price of having his balls kicked out by one full sweep of the leg. As a result of that incident, this womanizer never dared to leave the misty fairy house again. He's still having traumatic nightmares because of the brutality he faced that day. Compared to the mean and cruel world out there, he would rather enjoy his life in the warm embraces of the kind and gentle ladies of his home. It's just that. In comparison to the woman in front of himself right now, the lassie from back then was very frail and thin, while this one here had the assets of a fine beauty. They couldn't possibly be the same person in his view. But the major giveaway was the lack of a child. The lassie may be young back then, but she already had a baby son that's inseparable from her side. Miss Muleng's face may be frowning, but her voice remains polite despite the fact. I never claimed to be the number one person of my generation, that's merely a title others gave me. In my opinion, strength speaks for everything. Whoever is more capable should have the right to speak. Now please keep quiet while I speak and not interrupt me again. While the audience continued to give Bai Yan the stink eye, their gazes are now gleaming with admiration towards the proud lady who kept insisting the fault lied on others. What an amazing woman Miss Muleng is. Someone is clearly coming to provoke her at the doorstep, yet she can still treat them with courtesy. How many people out there can do something so gracious? Excuse me. Interrupting you. I'd like to ask you this then. Allowing her body to lean backwards against the chair in a lazy manner, Bai Yan's attitude grew sharper. Did I speak out just now? Cold in her tone, Muleng unwilling answers, you didn't. Then did I make any noises? No, you didn't. If I didn't speak out or make a noise, then why are you able to claim I'm bothering you? Or are you implying that I can't even move my own body while attending the youth exchange? Now Muleng's complexion had turned sour and ugly. She honestly couldn't give a retort to that lest she makes herself out to be a villain. Thankfully she didn't need to give a retort, she just needs to shift the topic back to the main objective of this event. Miss, since you are here today, then it must mean you are also an alchemist. There's still a question left to be answered, why don't you enlighten everyone with your knowledge then, Grinning now, the high-standing lady believes she's now back on the offensive. Sorry, I have no interest in answering your questions, I only like to do them. Understanding her son's mood was quickly deteriorating into a foul state, Bai Yan takes this moment to caress his fur in order to stabilize the growling fox. However, turning to confront the provoking party, my fees are usually quite high, I fear none of you would be able to afford it. She's already masked her face with the veil, plus she also hid her aura with a pill she took earlier, so there's no reason for Bai Yan to remain on the defensive if others want to fight. A humph. Seeing the ever-increasingly ugly expression on Mu Leng's face, the womanizer knew he must step in at this stage to settle down the friction. Miss, I've been stuck on the lower level of the king rank for a while now. Would you be so generous as to help me in making a breakthrough with your skills? If you succeed, I can offer you a generous reward in return. I am an alchemist, not a person who guides you through a breakthrough. Bai Yan's retort was quite blunt and rude. As an alchemist, you should be able to refine some sort of medicine to help one's cultivation, am I right? Let's do this then. If you can help me make a breakthrough, then I will give you a 10,000-year-old blood ginseng, how about that? I am not interested in that blood ginseng. 10,000-year-old blood ginseng? There's already 3 back at the medicine sect, more than enough for me to squander when needed. In comparison, the Tri-Reaching Soul Dan pill is far more valuable. Youth exchange, 6, but I can treat other diseases, like your kidney deficiency for example. Oomph. Blurting out the water in his mouth for the second time, the womanizer was now absolutely certain the other party must have something against him. Otherwise, why else would she keep doing this over and over again? If you don't want me to treat it, then forget what I said. Bai Yan shrugs and shifted her attention to a certain lady that's been hiding among the crowd. This female didn't really stand out by any means, just a quiet average-looking miss who didn't speak a word since the beginning of the event. However, one thing did catch Bai Yan's attention, and that's this person didn't show any fluctuation of spiritual energy around her body. Smiling and intrigued, Miss, are you unable to cultivate? Likely able to understand the question was being directed at herself, the young lady in question only sent a glance over to Voice's direction before turning back to Mu Leng's way. There's almost no light in her eyes, like the topic brought on some sort of great traumatic scar. And it's true, there's a story behind that reaction. Hey man, isn't that the young miss from the Mirage family? A member of the crowd asks his friend. Yes, that's her all right. What a shame she is. As the daughter of one of the 4 major families in the Misty Fairy House, she should have been a shining jewel among our age. Too bad she's born deficient and couldn't cultivate. Fortunately her other talents in alchemy are able to make up for that fact, otherwise she'd be facing a fate far worse than a servant at her home. Don't tell me, is this woman intending to help cure the young miss from the Mirage family? Oh, this is getting ridiculous. I bet even Bai Chang Feng of the medicine sect wouldn't be able to do it, let alone this unknown person. Compared to the cynicism of the crowd, the womanizer on the other hand was now getting very interested. Standing up, his peachy eyes now glowed with intrigue. Lady, mind explaining to us how you intend to treat this girl with your alchemy? Bai Yan just shook her head and said, there's no reason to bring a knife out to kill a chicken. I do not need to make any pill with my alchemy. What's more, refining a Dan pill for this occasion would be too expensive and time-consuming. Therefore, she never intended to do anything so laborious from the beginning. Mu Leng's smile now got frosty and intimidating after hearing those arrogant words. Oh, then please wow us with your ability then, Mississippi. It would be a real eye-opener to witness someone curing a patient without using any pill or medicine. If this woman wants to shame herself, then why should I stop her? She can go ahead and try. Have Sister Huan Yin be able to cultivate? Ha! You come and help me. Bai Yan didn't care for the high-standing woman's provoking words, instead she now turns to Sun Huan, who readily came over to offer his aid. What do you need me to help with? Her problem is that her meridians are blocked, resulting in unbearable pain when trying to cultivate. I want you to infuse your spiritual energy into her body to unclog the veins under my guidance. I don't think this would work. Rubbing his head, the womanizer holds his doubt. I know the old relics up there have already tried to help Huan Yin using this method before, but it was all useless because the effects were unsubstantial. The explanation there instantly brought on a wave of laughter among the onlookers. Is she thinking herself a miracle healer or something? Talk about having no self-awareness. Ignoring those ignorant comments, Bai Yan continues, you just need to do as I say, the rest I will complete on my own. Rubbing his nose at the persistence, the womanizer shrugs and figured he's not going to lose anything. Alright, I will help you this time under one condition. What do I get out of this? Youth Exchange, 7. What benefits do you want? Why not this then? You take off that veil and let me have a look at your face, how about that? A flash sparkles within Sun Huan's eye as he states his wish. He really wants to know what kind of face hides behind that cover. I am afraid I can't do that, but I can cure your kidney deficiency though. Making a faint smirk in return, Bai Yan refutes the request and counters with her own snarky proposal. Twitching in the corner of his mouth, the womanizer has got to hand it to this woman. Can she stop aiming at my kidney for once? In order to not let her go on, he quickly sucks in a deep breath and accepts the deal. All right, I will help you. After saying that, he slowly came before the patient that's known as Huan Yin. Placing his hand on the girl's backhand, he does as instructed and pushes his own energy inside. The pain was sharp and fierce. In no time at all, the patient was shaking all over as her lips turned a bleak dead white due to the pain. If you want to step into the path of cultivation, then endure it, this is only your first step. Jerking to attention over that sentence, Huan Yin immediately turned up to look. She didn't know exactly who Bai Yan was, but that pair of beautiful deep black eyes were powerful forms of support. Biting her lip, the girl presses on and grew firm this time around. Bang! Suddenly, Bai Yan's palm materializes a cluster of flame that emulated strength and control. In a flick of her finger, the spark of heat was shot into the patient's body, allowing the burning sensation to course through the veins at every turn. This treatment lasted for over half an hour. During the entire duration, Huan Yin could swear to the heavens that she would have died many times over due to the torturing pain. Nevertheless, at every moment when her consciousness was about to turn dark, the stern yet supportive voice kept coming over and reinvigorating her spirit and soul. Now, finally finished and without need to keep going, the patient collapses at the closest opportunity. Huan Yin, the womanizer asks with a frown after catching the girl. Is she going to be all right? No matter what, Huan Yin was still his niece, so the man must hold some responsibility here. Otherwise, he won't have a good excuse to explain to his mother, who's also from the Mirage household originally. Restore her blood with a Vitality Dan pill. Here, feed her this and then have her try absorbing some of the energy particles in the air. Taking the beady little thing from the woman's hand, the womanizer hurried to stuff it into his niece's mouth. Sure enough, that pale complexion on the girl's face swiftly changed back to a pinkish red of good color. But the best part came afterwards. Though Huan Yin had lost most of her consciousness at the beginning when she fainted, she did however gain enough of her senses after being caught to pick up the last remark from Bai Yan. Without any need for persuasion after coming to, the patient herself promptly got into a meditative pose upon awakening and discovered the truth. The spiritual energies in the air were swimming into her body through the skin before eventually reaching her meridian through the veins. There were no sharp pain like usual, in fact it was smooth and unimpeded. Did she do it? Is she able to cultivate now? Is the one recognized as a useless trash from the Mirage family finally able to cultivate? Questions like these were rampant among the guests aboard the river boat, but the inquiring gazes soon changed to shock and dismay after what they witnessed. There's a very clear level of energy fluctuating around Huan Yin's body. How did you do this? Due to the emotional moment, Sun Huan's first reflex was to make a grab for Bai Yan's shoulder to get a better answer. Unfortunately for the man, Bai Yan had no intent of letting anyone touch her, especially from someone who's known as a player. Sliding to one side, she easily dodges the hug with careful finesse. Merely relying on others to infuse their energy into her body is not enough. It also needs the help of someone's flame to help burn away the filth clogging up her veins and meridian. Only by cleaning out those wastes will she be able to be like a normal person. Pausing for a moment to think on her next part of the explanation, Bai Yan didn't want to blow it out of proportion. It's just that no one would dare to perform this kind of experiment because they would very likely burn away her meridian in the process. It's true the procedure is risky to most, but if the controller has a firm grasp of his powers, then the risks are superficial at most. Youth Exchange 8. An uproar explodes out of the crowd. Thank you so much. Huan Yin's voice was filled with emotion as she reached for Bai Yan's hand to give her gratitude. There's so much things she wanted to say right now but didn't know how to express herself. I don't know what more to say. Without you, I would never have been able to cultivate in this lifetime. Eventually that heartfelt voice had devolved into a whimpering cry, indicating how much this truly meant for the girl who's been mocked numerous times behind her back. Sure, Huan Yin's ability in alchemy may be very high, much thanks to her own effort, but make no mistake, being unable to cultivate remains a huge regret that she couldn't shirk off. But now, Bai Yan has saved her. So how could she not be excited? You don't have to thank me. If you want to thank someone, then thank Sir Xian Huan here. It's he who used a blood ginseng to save you. At first the womanizer still didn't process what she meant by that due to the suddenness of the claim, but that soon changed to an exploding jump into the air. Hey. When did I promise to give you the ginseng? Just now. She smiles like a fox in return. I promised you a blood ginseng only if you could help me make a breakthrough. You didn't do that, so why should I give you it? Rubbing her chin like she's musing the logic in that, a blood ginseng is too cheap for me to help you make a breakthrough. However, it's more than enough to help Miss Huan Yin here. For someone who claims to be a friend of all women, aren't you being a bit petty? Grinding his teeth at being put in the spotlight, the womanizer never thought he'd be taken advantage of like this, not after spending the last 20 years having his way in life. Fine, I can give you the ginseng if you like, but you must let me have a look at your face. Without giving any time for the other side to refuse, Sun Huan wanted to take the chance to jump the gun. Unfortunately for this man though, Bai Yan has never been one to let her guards down, especially in some public event filled with strangers. Cold to the glare, she eyes that hand like she's going to chop it off if it inches another step closer. Try and you can lose that hand. Flinching right at the last second, the womanizer normally wouldn't fear any threat from the opposite. After all, he wouldn't be a womanizer if he couldn't handle a few threats from the opposite sex. However, Bai Yan's threatening gaze just rubbed him the wrong way, like there's something creepy to it. Fine, I won't look if you won't let me. Geez, scared baby I to death there. Retracting his hand to pat his own chest, the man looks like he's still not quite back to normal due to the sudden fright. Now it's Bai Yan's turn to feel creeped out. Getting goosebumps all over, she didn't expect something so corny and hair-raising to come out of someone so old. At least don't act like a child when you're one of the oldest here. Against the picture of the two fluttering around her opponent's side, the high-standing woman who started all of this didn't look so good. In particular was the fact that her pursuer had just pretty much ditched her for this nobody. Sure, she doesn't like the guy to begin with, but that doesn't mean it's alright to let others take what's supposed to be hers. Then just as Mu Leng was ready to open that mouth in order to attract attention, a loud rocking suddenly shook the boat and cut her off. What happened? Why do I feel like something is hitting the boat from underneath? A random person from the crowd exclaims. Don't scare me, what could be in the water? It must be your illusion. Another man voices his fear and looked like he's about to faint. The rocking and swaying only got worse and worse, following every second to the point where those on shore could now visibly see the distress. Everyone starting to panic and hurried to spread away as a result, afraid they might get caught up in the mess somehow. Calm down everyone. Mu Leng puts on a strong face after seeing the crumbling situation. I speculate it's just a big fish in the water. It will leave soon enough. Remember, this is the Dragon River, there's no monsters here. But I heard there's supposed to be a dragon living in the river. The young man who cried out earlier in terrible fright calls out this fact. Please be assured everyone, Muleng's palm was also getting sweaty despite the strong front. Nevertheless, she persists and doesn't falter in the face. I've been here for many years already, never once have I seen a dragon. If there is one though, be at ease, I would love to tame such a wondrous creature as my own pet. She's a good person. 1. It's unsure if it's the reassuring words there, or just her confidence under the stressful situation, but's definitely helping in calming everyone down. That's right. With Miss Muleng by our side, there's no problem. Everyone can stop worrying. There's no way the creature that's rocking the boat is a dragon. If anything, it's probably just some dumb fish who didn't know its place. Various murmurs have started to grow stronger until it eventually formed a wave of support. Taking this opportunity to ride the tide, the high-standing woman points her attention to Bai Yan's party again. Sister Huan Yin, hurry and come to me. If you stay by my side then I can protect you. As for the womanizer. Although he's a self-centered individual who only likes to play with women, Muleng has no illusion about the man's strength. A king rank at the age of 30 was in every right a powerhouse who's only second to his older brother Yun Feng. Definitely a target to win over when trouble's around the corner. Huan Yin naturally refused the offer by shaking her head profusely. She's not so ungrateful as to abandon her savior, so she's clinging hard onto Bai Yan's hand right now. If so, then I can't do anything about that anymore. Those who wish to follow me should come to my side now. If anything happens in a bit, I will use all my power to protect them from whatever happens. Putting on a helpless face, the high-standing woman makes it sound like she's their own savior and option. And sure enough, everyone moved to her side like cattle being herded into a pen. Only by being beside her did they feel any sense of security. After seeing the choices of these people, Muleng's lip had inexplicably curled into an open grin as she confronted the man to join her. Brother Sun Huan, since these people were invited here by us, then it's our duty to protect them together. The miss over there isn't willing to come to me, so I can't do anything about that. However, we have a responsibility to help these who does wish for our help. Even in the face of the second young lord of the Misty Fairy House, the woman's air still carried a level of arrogance, like she's just as superior. So what if he's a king rank? I'm only 26 this year, so it's just a matter of time before I exceed him. I bet I can even become a monarch rank in just a few years at this rate. The womanizer didn't answer right away as expected. Instead, he's now shooting his supposed partner for the event a glance before shifting it back to Bai Yan's body. Those eyes were peachy when landing on the latter. You alone should be enough to protect those around you. I will stay and keep this lady company since she is still a guest after all. The river boat was mainly divided into 2 compartments here. Since Muleng wanted to play the dividing faction card now of all times, it has come into a situation where 2 underlying parties made up the entirety of the guest list. And since the compartments were closed off by a wall, it would be difficult to lend a hand when one side faces trouble. Against the open opposition and refusal to do as she wished, the high-standing woman immediately took this as a form of insult to her ego. Clenching that fist, she was just ready to say some more swaying words when the boat got rocked again by some sort of impact. Now things were becoming increasingly distressful to the point where the crowds have started to lose their balance. Look out! Suddenly, the womanizer noticed a huge tail that's covered in scales shooting into the cabin to make a grab for a person. Hold it! Muleng actually grew furious and snapped after seeing a monster appearing. This was tantamount to being slapped in the face because she did proclaim there couldn't possibly be a monster in the river. Perhaps aware of the oncoming attack from the third party, the creature swimming underneath the water actually surfaced its head to reveal its true face. There are 2 horns on the head, with scaly skin that glistened under the sunlight. This creature looked downright ferocious with its sharp canine teeth barring at the impudent wench. Dar dragon. She's a good person, too. There really lives a dragon in this river. It's a dragon, it really is a dragon. I have seen the pictures in the old texts, it's exactly as described like that. And, it doesn't look like there's only just one here either, the banging is still happening beneath the boat. But we have Miss Muleng here, there's no need to fear everyone, she will keep her promise and protect us. While various remarks were being thrown in the air, the high-standing woman herself didn't feel so high and mighty now. The promises she made earlier were no more than boastful bluffs, there's no way she could take on a real living dragon with her meager skills. Save me. Someone please save me. The one being swept away by the dragon tail screamed for help. In her moment of panic, the girl's first instinct was to seek the assistance of Muleng because she's the one who stood out the most and was at the forefront of the deck. Unfortunately for the desperate victim, her supposed savior didn't move an inch, only standing there without action like a hesitant bat. This reaction didn't go unnoticed by the girl herself of course, which gradually caused the flailing and crying to quiet down due to despair. The victim may not want to die or be kidnapped away by some unknown serpent, but she's not so done in the head to not realize Muleng had no requirement to save herself. After all, they're not family or friend, merely guests of the same event. Eventually someone did make a move though. For a womanizer, Sun Huan doesn't disappoint in his title because he couldn't stand the idleness showed by everyone and rushed forward with his fists blaring power. The man may not be the best character around but he sure knows how to show off his heroic side when it counts. Sadly, a dragon would remain a dragon. In one sweep of its tail after noticing the approaching assailant, the attacker was sent flying from the impact. Sun Huan was sent flying. But he's a lower-level king rank cultivator. If he can't do anything then who else is going to stop them? Numerous gasps and hisses could be heard from the onlookers who were too afraid to do anything, both from ashore and on the boat. Scram male, I only want girls. The dragon doesn't even flinch and showed a disdainful glare at the womanizer before diving straight into the river. Meanwhile at the same time, the dragon that's been banging at the boat from beneath the water was also done with its deed. There's now a big hole in the side, allowing the river water to gush into the lower cabins. Ah! The cold water poured into Huan Yin's mouth after she was suddenly caught by another tail that came sweeping in through the hole. She wanted to struggle and break free, unfortunately, her strength was nowhere being strong enough to resist as the lack of oxygen quickly left her sight blurring away. Am I going to die today? It was so hard for me to be able to cultivate too, but now, I'm going to die. Frustration and sadness plagued that pitiful smile as she closed those eyes in acceptance. But fate has kindness. Just as she's about to hit rock bottom, a hand suddenly reached out and grabbed her by the wrist. Before Huan Yin knew it, air, fresh and powerful air filled her lungs, refreshing her already muddled consciousness with life again. I didn't die. In that moment of her life, the girl could not believe her luck. She had already given up and stopped struggling underneath, but now her face was above water and gazing up at the sky. Then all of a sudden, a bolt of electricity zapped her brain upon remembering what had happened and the hand who helped herself. Before Huan Yin could ask those around where her savior was, the other girl who was also dragged into the water was thrown into the air and landed back on deck like herself. By this point the deck of the boat had been filled with people, they're all making apologetic looks as they watched the bottomless river. Who? Regaining some strength after collecting herself, Huan Yin hurries to search around. What happened just now? Who saved me? The faces coming back were very complicated. In the end it was the womanizer who decides to explain the details, it was the girl who cured you earlier. Up till now none had even bothered to ask the lady her name, so Yun Huan, womanizer, couldn't even state Bai Yan's name. What? The soaked girl anxiously grabbed onto the man's arm and scanned the area, but where is she? I don't see her. She's a good person. 3. She didn't come out. With a bang, Huan Yin's girl leg crumbled as she felt her body falling to the ground. There's so much pain in her eyes that she felt distraught at being the cause of someone's death. I owe her my life, twice at that too. I will go have the elder council come look for her, this river is far too deep to search with only us here. Clenching his fist hard, the womanizer Sun Huan still couldn't forget the brave image of Bai Yan jumping into the water at a moment's notice. He never thought someone would be so self-denying that they would sacrifice themselves for others. Brother Huan Yin, this wouldn't be appropriate. Mu Leng's wrinkled brow showed she didn't approve of the plan. Your brother's condition isn't very stable recently and the elder council is busy with their own matters. How can they come and save a single person? And, she already entered the bottom of the river, there's no way she could be alive. The implication of those words were too obvious. Quit wasting time and effort because the person's dead. You shut up. The womanizer shoots a harsh glare at the impudent girl with his bloodshot eyes. He's fuming and easily provoked at the moment. At first Mu Leng still didn't know how to react, but that shocked look soon turned to disbelief because it's the first time the man yelled at her. And, it's for a stranger. Mu Leng, I thought you were only a proud-natured person so I didn't mind that part about you, at least you weren't conceited in my view. But now I've seen the truth. You cowered in fear. I can't fault you for wanting to keep yourself safe, after all, being self-protective is human nature. What I can't accept is you lying to these people who believed in you. If you weren't going to protect them then why did you promise what you did? Mu Leng's complexion had turned pale at the accusation. She didn't know how to respond to the man's interrogation. Oh Mu Leng, I'm such a fool. To think I had wanted to pursue a woman like you. You're not a proud woman at all, you're nothing but a self-centered fake who knows nothing of kindness and promise. Trembling in the corner of her lips at the last part, the woman wanted to defend herself. Unfortunately for her, she didn't even get to chip in a single word before the conversation was cut off by the first girl who got swept into the water. I saw it clearly. The one who saved me is the lady from before. She's a kind person. To think she would go so far for strangers like us, that whimpering voice was crystal clear so pretty much everyone on deck could hear her. Guilt could be seen across the board in everyone's eye right now. They didn't forget their ridiculing words from earlier despite having no reason to do so. Sir Sun Huan, if the elders aren't willing to take action then I'm willing to send my family's elites to come help in the search. Me too. We can't sit back and watch when someone like that is in need of help. Meanwhile all of this was occurring above water. Bai Yan on the other hand was busy confronting the two big lizards who caused this whole mess to begin with. In truth, she could have released her son to deal with them using the bloodline pressure at the start. In that case none of this mess would have occurred. However, this was after all not the mainland. If she leaked her son's identity then it wouldn't be good and might even bring danger along their way. So, here they are, out of sight and without anyone to pry into their business. Imagine the two dragons discovering the one they dragged away weren't some pretty damsel in distress, rather it's a ferocious beast that carried an even scarier beast that could make them tremble in great fear. She's a good person, for, High Highness, the dragon struggles to speak under that pressuring aura. We really didn't know you were here, please forgive us for being uninformed. Don't be fooled by that cute little appearance of the fox there wagging its tail. The amount of pressure the kids exuding towards the two were crushing, downright torturing. Furthermore, there's also another unknown source of energy that the dragons couldn't quite get right somewhere. I'm going to only ask you one question. Bai Yan arches her brow, why are you pulling those human women into the water? The lizards didn't answer right away. Exchanging a look with each other, they seemed to be conflicted on whether to answer or not. Son, seeing the unwillingness of the two, the woman makes a faint smirk and urged her boy to go forward. It seems they won't talk so you can go ahead and do it. Rubbing that paw together like a devious and sly fox that he was, Bai Xiaqun readily walked towards the dragons like a predator facing its prey. Every step he took, the two would feel the pressure increasing twofold, leaving their heads unable to even get off the ground at this stage. I will speak. The gold dragon was the first to give in from the pressure. Shaking with great fear, it's because of our family's mistress. She's injured and needs the blood of human women to stabilize her condition. But because of her unwillingness to harm a human, her injury's been getting worse over the years till it's become life-threatening at this stage. Talk about poor planning and pure bad luck. If they knew by simply coming out for a trip would send them bumping heads into the royal family, then they would never do something this stupid. I beg you, please let us go. Mistress only has us around her, there's no other dragons living here. We can't die, or at least until our mistress meets the one whom she's waiting for. Pleading here was the other silver dragon. He's also the one who swept the girl called Huan Yin from underneath the boat after breaking a hole in the ship. Take me to see that mistress of yours. After a minute of contemplation, Bai Yan orders after finishing her decision. In truth, she's been sensing a familiar vibe around here ever since she stepped onto the riverbed. It's just that she couldn't quite pinpoint where it's coming from. The silver dragon grew hesitant due to being taken aback by the demand. However, his brother the gold dragon didn't have any issue with this and easily nodded that head. Okay, I will take you to see my mistress. As members of the demon race, these two shouldn't have any enmity against the mistress. Following from behind, Bai Yan eventually found herself coming before a luxurious-looking palace underneath the water. As the two lizards stated, there doesn't seem to be any other dragons living around these parts or inside the structure for that matter. So, their trip was rather uneventful without any resistance or interference. Bang! But just when they're about to reach a certain bedroom that's clearly reserved for the owner, the door was suddenly blown right open. Immediately, a beautiful woman wearing a long green dress had rushed out of there and turned to scan her surroundings with anxious light. Seconds later, her eyes eventually fell upon Bai Yan's face, who had long removed the veil during their trip over. There's the initial confusion at first, then that soon changed to excitement and overflowing joy. You are the one I'm waiting for. Bai Yan's heart shuddered with shock at the question. Staring right back at the woman who seemed oddly familiar, she asked with uncertainty, "You were waiting for me?" "Yes, I have been dreaming of this day since my birth." Not being polite, the dragon lady strode forward in careful delight as her happiness melted away the sickly color on that face. That dream had a voice. It always told me she would come for me. Whether it be 1 year or a decade, she would come back for me. She's a good person, 5, so, I have been waiting all this time. I never lost hope that the one I'm waiting for would join me eventually. The woman with the green dress stumbles to a halt, her face showing hope and surprise when reaching out with that hand to touch Bai Yan's face. I could sense it when you approached the palace. You are the one, the person I've been waiting all this time in the past century. What is your name? Bai Yan's hands were slightly shaking when reaching up to meet the other side's. There's so much emotion flowing in those pupils that words are in no way enough to describe them. Tsing Yi, my name is Tsing Yi. I thought I wouldn't make it with my injuries, but now I could finally meet you. Upon thinking of how close she came to not meeting Bai Yan, a trickle of tear would come rolling down the corner of the dragoness's eye. Tsing Yi. Hugging the woman, Bai Yan could feel her heart pumping with pain over what she's heard. I'm here now, don't worry. From now on no one can hurt you again because I won't let them. Tsing Yi has the blood of the azure dragon in her veins, so the woman's identity speaks for itself. However, Suzaku, Vermilion Bird, did mention azure dragon was a man. Well, a change of sex during a reincarnation couldn't be ruled out here, right? I believe in you. The woman's voice sounded very nice to the ear, like the flowing water of a mountain creek. Tsing Yi, let me see your body right now. Letting go of her hug, Bai Yan inserts her spiritual feelers through the skin in order to examine the dragoness. Almost immediately, her expression had turned grim. Who caused you to become like this? The current azure dragon could hardly be considered the great sacred beast that's been described in those stories. In fact, her life force was on the edge of flickering out. If Bai Yan came even a day later, it's very likely the dragoness would have died on her own. Casting that face down to the ground, Tsing Yi's aura turned weak and gloomy. The Misty Fairy House is home to a clan of dragons. Because of how well we are hidden from the world, the humans have never bothered us. Without interruption, Bai Yen quietly listens in on the story. 100 years ago, my clan had an infighting and my father was imprisoned as a result of the traitors among our ranks. They not only stole my father's position as chief, they also framed me, claiming I colluded with a human man and kidnapped my own father. It's funny they would say that honestly. How could I have colluded with a human to harm my own father? If the other clan members had just investigated a bit, then they would have known the man was merely my friend that I met on a trip. In the end, the rest of the clan members were swayed into hunting me and nearly took my life in the following pursuit. Originally I wouldn't have lasted long after the injuries I sustained, but I just couldn't accept my fate ending like that. From birth, I've been waiting for you, so I couldn't bring myself to die like they wished. Xing Yi's expression looked lifeless and sad then, knowing full well about her own condition. I'm sorry, I can't stay with you longer. At most I can only live for a few more days. As for rescuing her father and reclaiming the clan, that's nothing but a pipe dream at this point. I will find a way to heal you. Bai Yan's complexion was seething with rage. Don't give up, Xing Yi. I will definitely save you. I just need to find the right ingredients. Once I do, your injuries will immediately be cured with my help. Shooting up her eyes in surprise, the dragoness's voice became emotionally excited. I can really live. Giving a heavy nod in confirmation, I won't let you die. Also, going silent for a moment, Bai Yen then rummages through her storage bag before pulling out a bottle. This here will help you keep going for another 3 months. I will use this period to gather what I need. Do not give up until I return. Yes, mistress. Overjoyed in her smile, Xing Yi collects the gift with careful precision. But please don't leave yet, there's something I want to do first. Can we form a contract? She's a good person. 6. Contract. Blinking her eyes, Bai Yen was rather taken aback by the suddenness of it all. Even so, she didn't refuse after recalling back to the events which took place when she contracted little Rice back at the bedside. Closing her eyes, let's begin then. At the permission, the dragoness quickly pointed her finger over to Bai Yan's temple and allowed the stream of connection to bond together between mistress and familiar. And sure enough, the vivid scenes of the battlefield had once again emerged within the mind of the latter. This is my past life. No, this is my memory from 2 lives ago. It was then, while Bai Yen remains busy fussing over which life this was, a loud chaotic ruckus of metal and explosions had pulled her attention. Hurrying to seek the source, Bai Yen could see there are 2 opposing forces at a standoff. Almost immediately, she could recognize one of them. It's a young man wearing a deep blue gown with a very handsome contour of a proud general. There are a lot of similarities between this youth and Xing Yi's face, though they're different sexes though. Why do you submit to a mere human woman when you are the great dragon general of the demon realm? Tell me where she is and I will let you live. The enemy frowns and attempts to sway the unyielding youngster. In return to that proposed deal, a wild laugh was all that came out of the general's mouth. If none is willing to take on this daunting task in hell, then I shall do it. But before I head off into hell, I will take all of you with me first. So what if I have to go to hell after I die? If I can attack the gods themselves, then a simple place like hell is nothing to fear. Attack! The enemy forces were outraged by the youth's arrogant proclamation. In a wave of the leading man's hand, find that woman, she is likely at the brink of making a breakthrough. We must use this golden opportunity to slay her during her weakest. After the orders were given, both sides immediately charged into each other and blood soon stained the sky and ground. Though the youth's side came out with a victory in the end, he's nevertheless severely injured with blood soaking into his gown. There are a few survivors on his end left, but they're so far and in between that it's not even worth mentioning anymore. And fate has a tendency to toy with those who are living as always. Just as the youth's about to pull up the very sword in which he's using to support himself, another blade had abruptly came down from the sky and pierced into his chest. Puff! Losing pretty much most of his motor skills after the sneak attack, the youth finally turned his head around and met the assailant's gaze. There were numerous emotions after he recognizes who it was, but most of it were disbelief and sadness. Why are you, sadly, the final sentence there could never be completed. Crashing to the ground as all life left him, a cloud of dust scatters into the air over the impact. Outside the battlefield, Bai Yan desperately wanted to see the face of the assailant for herself. Unfortunately for her though, the layer of fog over that face remains regardless of how she moved around. Even so, there was one point she's certain of now: the assailant must be acquainted to the youth if he could get a hit in so easily from behind. Boom! The scene exploded and shatters into a million pieces, causing Bai Yan to return to reality and collapsing onto the cold hard floor. Tears quickly came trickling down as the wave of emotion hit her in full. Mistress, what's wrong? Xing Yi didn't understand the huge change in her mistress's demeanor, so she's starting to get worried. It's nothing. Shaking her head in return, Bai Yan didn't want to make a big deal out of this. After all, she knew the scenes from her memory were powerful images to begin with. For the sake of getting an answer, she's not going to stop. She's a good person. 7. Xing Yi, you are seriously injured now, so stay here and care for yourself until I finish refining the medicine. I will come back for you. Let Goldie and Silvery follow you then. The dragoness offers the help after a moment of silence. No, they are better suited to protect you. Besides, I already have a little guardian with me, there's no need for another too. Bai Yan then proceeded to pat the little fox in her arms to indicate her son would be the little protector. It getting late, I should leave now. As adamant as Xing Yi was of this idea, she knew her mistress wouldn't stay forever in the Dragon River. Then let them escort you at least, she purses her lip and offered again. This time Bai Yan didn't refuse and answered with a nod, when I have time, I will come see you. Uhu. The whimpering from the little fox meant that he's also of that idea because he could come play with the new friend whenever he's bored. Goldie and Silvery were now both standing in attendance on both sides as they prepared to leave. The two are quite fast-witted actually. Since their mistress has become this lady's familiar, their attitude got extremely respectful with a lot of flattery tones in there during the trip back. Unfortunately for them though, Bai Yan has never been one to take bootlickers very well, so it only became a bother. Once at the described exit, she shooed the both of them away like they're contagious or something. Back over in the surface, Huan Yin, girl, had just returned to her home after everything exploded into a rescue effort for Bai Yan. The poor lady was dreadfully moody for the lack of result and hanged her head as she walked past her own father. Hold it! Huan Lifang hollers out to his daughter after getting no eye contact. Coming back to attention, the young lady turns without energy. Father, did you call me? What happened to you today? Why are you so dejected? Speaking like it's nothing, I can cultivate now. I can cultivate now. This news literally smashed the old man into startling amazement. Nearly screaming in that voice due to the joyous news. What do you mean? Daughter, you can cultivate now. If she can cultivate, then why is she acting so dejected? Biting that lip, the girl couldn't hold it in anymore and allowed the tears to come forward. That lady who cured me is in danger and is now missing. Father, please help, please send someone to save her. What? Huan Lifang was furious and exploded with rage. Since the lady was the one who cured you, then of course we will go save her. She is the benefactor of our family. Just tell father who it is, I will send my people to crush them right away. And, she not only healed me, she also saved my life. The girl's voice started to stammer as she's about to openly cry. At the time the boat was being attacked by a dragon. The creature dragged me into the water and I thought I was about to die when no one came to help me. That's when she dived in without any care for her own life to save me. Dragon? This. The father's eye now showed absolute shock over the stunning news. He's heard of there being dragons within the Dragon River, but never has he seen or heard of one being sighted. It can't be, there really are dragons living in that river? Daughter, you go inside and rest first. I will call the higher-ups of the family and hold a meeting. Don't worry, we will definitely find her even if it's just a corpse. The girl only fell into danger for the sake of Huan Yin, we mustn't be ungrateful and just stand by to watch. Despite the promise from her old man, the dejected girl's mood remains as moody as ever. She knows, by this point the likelihood of survival was thin. Even if they do locate Bai Yan, then it would be as a dead body and nothing more. Meanwhile, at the same time over at the chief's residence, the womanizer Sun Huan had just arrived at his own home too when he started screaming out for help. Mother, father, hurry and come help. Someone needs saving. Hypocritical Muleng. 1. In this usually quiet estate, the eager voice of this womanizer was no different from an injection of adrenaline, sending all of the occupants inside to rush out in search of the commotion. What happened, Sun Huan? Jun Tianyu, wife, asks her son after seeing that urgent demeanor. Mother, he firmly grabs onto that arm, hurry and go call everyone, just now my friend's been dragged away by a dragon living under the Dragon River. Wah! The group of elders who followed from behind the lady of the house were all aghast by the shocking news. Their faces were either showing incredulous or disbelief. Dragon? The Dragon River is really home to a dragon? For a while there, everyone was exchanging silent looks because they knew there's just no way for survival after being towed away for so long. Son, the mother remains to be the calmest here and wanted some more details, tell me what exactly happened first. Giving a slight nod in return, the womanizer knew he must do as told in this situation. Bit by bit, he went over the story of how Bai Yan cured Huan Yin's condition, then of how she dived into the water despite the danger in order to save the two girls who were dragged under the water. Jun Tianyu and her husband Wu Wei were both quite shocked in the face afterwards. One for learning there's such a selfless person under them, the second being the incredible ability the lady portrayed on the boat. You mean that lady really cured Huan Yin's condition? Chief Wu Wei asks with a tinge of anxiousness in his voice. The man held a very clear picture of the lass's physical condition, so the fact that someone could cure her left a lot of questions to be answered. Yes, father, you must save her. Even at this point the womanizer still doesn't know why he's acting so heartbroken over the scene of Bai Yan being dragged into the bottom of the river. It's definitely not love or adoration, that much he's certain. So, what could this feeling be that's constantly stinging at his heart? Okay, the mother's gaze looked grim, I will have our people go search for the lady. Perhaps she might be alive still if we are quick. With the guarantee of the lady of the house, Sun Huan's expression also lightened up. Thank you, mother, as long as you can save her then I will be good in the future too. Making a helpless smile over her son's promise, this mother didn't know whether to be happy or sad that it took so long for her second son to reach this level maturity. Compared to her first son, Sun Huan definitely left a lot to be desired of. You go and rest first. If there's any news then I will come inform you. Giving a nod at that, the man then turns away for his own room. Madam. The elders were dissatisfied with the rash promise and quickly objected, the first master is already terminally ill. We don't have time to waste on searching for some stranger. Please reconsider the decision. Growing heavy in the complexion, the woman got stern in the voice almost immediately, this is my decision. No one is allowed to have any objection. Chief. The elders then shift their eyes over to Chief Wu Wei instead. Coughing twice at the added attention, the chief knew he must take a side, everything is to be done according to my wife's will. Since Wu Wei has spoken, the rest of the elders could do nothing but carry out the command. Arching their fist, they quickly retreated away. Are you trying to take a chance with that lady after hearing Sun Huan's claim? Alone now, the husband turns to his wife and asks inquisitively. Hypocritical Muleng. 2. Jun Tianyu, wife, gives a faint nod, Yes, if she can cure Huan Yin, girl, then her ability must be quite good. I want to invite her to come look at Yunfeng's condition. But she's been dragged down to the bottom of the river by the dragon already. I fear her likelihood of survival is slim at this rate. Unable to hold in his frustration over this sad predicament, Chief Wu Wei felt a sense of bitterness in the mouth and sighed heavily. This may not be the case. As long as we don't see the body, then it's very possible that she's alive still somehow. Even if the hope was slim, or just a flicker, this mother wasn't going to give up for the ask of her son. Inside the Misty Fairy House, all 4 major powers are ablaze with activity, causing the Dragon River to be entrenched with heavy security as a result of their search. And due to Bai Yan's need to hurry back, the girl was oblivious to the commotion her presence has caused for everyone. Nevertheless, her goal was achieved, and the brother Shifus she newly recognized didn't realize she had snuck out. Shifus, did something happen today? Bai Yan asks after seeing the gloomy expression on the two that night. It's not a big deal or anything, you only need to focus on your training. Delighted now, the older Zhongnan spoke first. Oh yes, what is your level? We want to test and see your results. I think my breakthrough will happen very soon. There were flashes of light in both brothers' iris after hearing that. This is wonderful news. The girl's talent is indeed great. To think her breakthrough would happen so soon. A humph, the younger Zhongbei makes an embarrassed cough over his brother's lack of control. Patting the woman's shoulder, Lassie, I didn't misread you at all, your talent is by far the best we've come across in years. Aside from the young lord of our Misty Fairy House, there is only one other by the name of Mu Leng who could be called an absolute genius like you. Pausing at this point, he seems to be contemplating on what to say next. It's a shame that you started late. Don't worry though. With our help and the pace you're going now, it's not out of expectation for you to break into the higher level of king rank before 30. Towards that claim, the little fox in Bai Yan's arm immediately made a furrowed face like he's looking down at Zhongbei. Mother is already at the monarch rank yet he's saying king rank? Humph, that is so 3 years ago. Bai Shachen murmurs this in the head, holding the old grandpa in contempt for the blindness. Though Zhongbei himself doesn't speak fox, he's still quite taken aback by the demeanor of that little rascal's attitude when he glanced down. Why do I feel like this baby fox looking at me funny? Disciple, Zhongnan, older, suddenly remembers something and made a frown. In the coming days I don't want you going out. Why? I just heard that in the river not far from here appeared a dragon and that someone's been hurt as a result of their attack. If you must go out then you must bring someone with you at least. Zhongnan's tone was very serious in there. It wasn't easy for him to take in such a satisfactory disciple after so many years. So, if the dragons hurt her then where would he complain to? Freezing in the hand, Bai Yan ended up twitching in the corner of her mouth. I understand. It seems that Goldie and Silvery caused quite the commotion today. I must remind Xing Yi after this so they don't butt heads during this period. Hypocritical Mu Leng, 3, it's good that you understand. Despite sighing in relief, Zhongnan doesn't let this go lightly. I will need to send a couple of people to shadow this lassie in secret. I can't let her be harmed because we're careless. Mu Manor. Clutching her sweaty palm as she paced back and forth between the big hall, Mu Leng felt extremely uncomfortable inside as she waited. But that changed as soon as her eyes fell upon the beautiful lady that walked in the door, Shifu. Smiling at her disciple, Elder Muzhin didn't hesitate to ask for why the girl's acting so strange. Are you waiting for me? Why are you looking so nervous? Yes, Shifu, pursing that lip, Mu Leng drops that head before speaking. Shifu, I think I've failed in getting close to Sun Huan. The proud woman never favored someone like Sun Huan to begin with, even if he was the second in line to the position as chief in the Misty Fairy House. So why did she go and seduce that womanizer? There were several reasons, but it mainly surrounded the fact that she had a desire for power and her Shifu instructed her to do so. Give the specifics, I want to know the details. Stern and dark, Elder Muzhin orders. Bit by bit, the story of what happened on the dragon boat was listed in clear detail. Regarding the event that afternoon, the white-haired beauty has long heard of it before returning home, just that she didn't know her disciple had made such a huge blunder where not only does her reputation would take a huge hit and plummet, she also lost the favor of the second young lord in the misty fairy house. Lenger, do you know where you went wrong? Muzhen sighs at her disciple's carelessness. It's your boasting. Even if you didn't want to save those people, you shouldn't have promised anything. With Sun Huan's personality, he will definitely be dissatisfied you after learning the truth. Getting on her knees now, the proud girl now started to weep. Shifu, please help me, I can't fall like this after working so hard. Going silent, the old beauty didn't speak for the longest time. Go to the Mirage family's place and apologize to them. Though Huan Yin is only a relative of the chief's wife, the girl is highly favored by her aunt. In addition, Muzhen's gaze now turns sharp and fierce. You must marry Sun Huan at all cost. Now Mu Leng was absolutely shaking in her body after hearing her Shifu's final order. I understand. She only intended to string the man along at first when she originally got the order to seduce the person. Now it's obvious her Shifu intends to marry her off for real this time. So, how could she accept this ending? First of all, her own talent far exceeds that womanizer. Though their level still doesn't stand on the same level yet, but the age difference says it all. It's just a matter of time before she surpasses everyone. If nothing else, go back to your room for now. Muzhen waves her hand, signaling her student to leave. Yes, Shifu. Closing those eyes, the girl hides the unwillingness in there and retreated as told. Leaving the main hall, Mu Leng begrudgingly bypassed several of the long corridors before eventually reaching a familiar courtyard. But before she could reach the doorway for her own room, a guard had walked in from the side to make a report. Miss, I have uncovered the matters you ordered us to investigate. Well? Her brow arching into a glare, she sounded cold and intimidating. Who was it? Who was that woman who stole my limelight? She is the Ho family's daughter called Ho Chui Chui, but, when I went to confront the lady, she informed us that she didn't attend the event for various reasons and sold the invite slip to someone else. Who did she sell to? Mu Leng's expression was now getting hard and dangerous. We were able to locate the dealer very easily and even managed to get a portrait of the woman according to the description he gave. Miss, please have a look. Hypocritical Mu Leng. 4. The guard in question hurries to present the portrait in front of the lady. After careful scrutiny, Mu Leng's expression soon changed from smug to enraged anger. The woman on the portrait was almost surreal in how beautiful it was, far surpassing her own image in every way. In particular were those eyes. It's deeply attractive and the key factor in confirming it's indeed the same person she met on the boat. She is the woman who bought the invitation? Biting her lip, she asks with a frosty tone. Go deal with that dealer first, then go tell that Ho Chui Chui that if she wants to be a prominent figure around here then she is to do as I say. From this point forward Ho Chui Chui is the woman in this portrait, the very same person who saved Huan Yin. If her people could follow the trail and investigate up to this point then it's a surety that Sun Huan and everyone else would as well. By using Ho Chui Chui to impersonate this unknown woman, Mu Leng could use this to her advantage. After all, no one saw Bai Yan's true face thanks to the facial veil she wore. As for the air and temperament, that's easily solvable with time and training. Yes, milady. Getting the order, the guard promptly retreated away to carry out his task. Heaving a long sigh after seeing she's alone finally, Mu Leng was just about to put the portrait away when the door to her place was pushed open again. In a panic, she hurried to hide the scroll behind her back and away from the newcomer's prying eye. Shifu, are you looking for me? Wrinkling that temple, the old beauty arches her brow inquisitively. What is that hidden behind you? The girl's demeanor appeared somewhat edgy. It's not that she doesn't believe her Shifu or anything, it's just that there are some things better left untold whenever possible. Darkening in the face upon getting no answer from her disciple, the old beauty decides to take matter into her own hands. In a wave, the portrait being hidden was promptly snatched away. Shifu! Mu Ling exclaims in great fright at seeing the scroll being unfolded. While the young girl herself only wanted to hide the picture, Muzhen on the other hand showed a much bigger reaction than expected. It's as if a ghost had just appeared from the depths of hell and wanted to strangle this old lady. That's how pale the woman looked at this moment. Linger, where did you get this portrait from? Muzhen's lip trembles as she spoke. It was actually so bad that even her hands were having a hard time keeping the scroll in check and almost dropped it on several occasions. Though Mu Ling herself doesn't know what's gotten into her Shifu right now, it doesn't stop her from giving the details. You mean, the woman in this picture is that very same lady? Muzhen's eye flashed meaningfully. Yes Shifu, that's her right there. Good, very good. Remember, do not let anyone else see this portrait again. Returning the scroll to her disciple, Muzhen herself felt relieved for some unknown reason. Yes, that woman is dead, she couldn't possibly be alive. Thinking of this, the old beauty's mood immediately let up. Evoking a snarling smirk, since that woman is the one who saved Huan Yin, then she mustn't be allowed to live. From now on forward, I will try to muddle the search effort. As to Huan Yin's side, Linger, you will need to count on yourself to do your half. I understand Shifu. Although Mu Ling didn't know the specifics yet regarding the search effort, she did understand enough that there's no possible way the woman could have survived after being eaten by a dragon. Oh yes, Muzhen's gaze narrowed into a slit, your plan will need to be adjusted to the situation. Even if the temperament is similar, it's useless. What's really important is the body shape. After all, that Sun Huan is no fool when it comes to the opposite sex. He's sharper than anyone in the Misty Fairy House when recognizing a female's body. Hypocritical Mu Ling, 5, Shifu, I know what to do. Glowing a frosty tint in those eyes, Mu Ling confirms she's got the idea in her demeanor. This time I will not let my plan fail. The Ho family was a small to middle-ranked household in the Misty Fairy House. As such, even if the disciples under them would have to survive with their tails behind their butt. But that's all changed in the past couple of days thanks to the people sent over by Mu Ling. Not only did Ho Chui Chui herself readily accept the proposal to impersonate Bai Yan when the idea was brought up, she also willingly joined the plan to become Huan Yin's benefactor in light of the deceit involved. It's simply too tempting, being a person of superior status. However, there's just one minor issue, she must lose that buttload of weight from her figure. Sadly, Ho Chui Chui has always been a glutton. Forcing her to go on a diet was excruciatingly painful. Therefore, it only took a few days before the girl couldn't handle the restriction anymore and secretly snuck out of her home to visit the best restaurant around. Oh ho ho. Bai Xiachen tugs at his mother's sleeve, those eyes shooting straight over to the restaurant that's giving off a salivating smell in the air. Are you hungry? Halting in her step, she asks with an affectionate gaze. Giving a desperate nod at that question, the baby fox looked absolutely adorable in that appearance. It's no different from a baby pleading for food to his mother. In actual truth, the boy didn't really want the restaurant's food, rather it's his own mother's cooking. Sadly, he's too afraid of them being snatched away by those two new shifas when they get a whiff of the smell. As such, he could only endure for now and turn to this restaurant. If you are hungry then let's go inside and rest. Bai Yan's naturally aware of the two shadows tailing her since the day of the conversation, therefore she's not in the position to go inform Tsing Yi of what she knew right now. But no matter, passing on a message could be left solely to Goldie and Silvery since they are under no restriction. The main urgency still remains with locating Dragoni and the blood vine seeds. Bai Xiachen didn't have that much problems compared to his mother though, he only has food in mind at the moment. Blinking like stars in his eyes, the little fox licks that cheek like a good little son that he was and got a good rub on the head in return. Unbeknownst to the boy though, Bai Yan was rather worried about her son's current state for it's been a long time since she's heard him call out to her in that cuddly voice. The business around this Longjing restaurant was very good based on the fullness of their lobby. Maybe it's just luck at play today, but Bai Yan and her son were able to get a table as soon as they entered thanks to a couple leaving at the same time. But good fortune doesn't always last. As soon as she's finished picking out a few dishes and was in the middle of playing with her son, that's when it happened. Ho Chui Chui, I obviously came first, so based on what can you take my seat? The voice sounded angry. Sneering in return, Lu Yu, you've snatched my stuff on more than one occasion before, so what does it matter if I return the favor just this once? You, the other person, stares wide-eyed there. The idea of Ho Chui Chui talking back to him simply never crossed his mind. What's going on here? This girl always run like a cat as soon as she sees me, why is she acting so rudely all of a sudden? You are crazy. In the end, he snaps and shot this over to the instigator of the drama. You only dare to pick on me before because of your brother working in the chief's manor. From now on I, Ho Chui Chui, will no longer put up with your affronts. If you don't scram before I get mad, then I will show you what it means to cross me. After giving this threat, the chubby girl then picks up the leftover dishes and threw it all over in Lu Yu's direction. Hypocritical Muleng, 6. At the same time while this was occurring to one side, the waiter in charge of serving Bai Yan's table had finished bringing over their food by then. As the little glutton that he was, Bai Xiaqin's little paw naturally wanted to make a grab for the delicious things placed before his eyes. Sadly, the flying leftovers from the troubling fight had come splashing over and ruining all of the dishes in their spot. Bai Yan's first reaction was a dark face of disbelief while her son just froze there with his paw still reaching out. It's simply too ridiculous and out of the blue that both were unable to react aside from the kid leaking out a bead of tear from having his much-anticipated food being squandered away by someone else. It's unsure when, but a large crowd of people had gathered around the middle of the lobby of this restaurant by now, all of them attracted by the commotion. You want to splash me with the leftovers? Lu Yu grinds his muller over the insult. Not backing down, Ho Chui Chui completely flips the table this time and sent every dish nearby flying into the air. As a result of this, Bai Yan and her son were now fully in range of the oncoming splatters of meat and vegetables. If not for the woman herself moving fast and dodging in time, it's very likely the mother and son duo would be covered in food from the second shower. Enraged at this point, Bai Xiaqin completely puffs up his fur over the utter destruction of his meal and made a direct dash for the chubby girl's stomach. No forgiveness. Ah! Ho Chui Chui never expected an attack from another assailant, let alone a tiny critter from some random direction. Therefore, she immediately faltered to the ground after taking several steps backward from the impact. Her eyes were furious upon noticing it's a nothing but a baby fox who assaulted herself. You damn beast, how dare you charge at me? I will skin you this instant and make a coat out of you. But before the chubby girl could carry out her wretched plan, a pair of delicate hands had reached over to pull the still fuming fox into a protective embrace. What did you just say about skinning whose fox? The voice and glare was dreadfully cold, sending a wave of frost down anyone's spine upon contact. In this moment, Ho Chui Chui actually found herself in a state of panic under that threatening gaze. She didn't know why, but it's just very frightening, like it's coming from within and not from over there. Nevertheless, the arrogance within this one seems to be bigger than anything else, even fear itself. In no time at all, her pompous attitude had returned. Is this little fox yours? The chubby girl purses her lip, flustered still despite having the courage to speak. Indifferent in the face, Bai Yan didn't answer the person. I won't ask you to apologize to me, but you will have to sell me that fox. Regardless of how stupid this chubby wench was, she's not blind to the fact that she's alone here. Against so many pairs of witnessing eyes, the only outcome would be her loss at this rate, hence the compromise. Now Bai Yan's gaze was getting extremely intimidating after hearing someone's outrageous demand of trying to buy her own son. In an instant, an oppressive and domineering aura had swelled out of her body like Ditsang usually does, making her the female version of a demon lord. Why don't I use a copper coin and buy you instead? It just so happens that my baby fox here needs a waist cleaner. That instantly warranted a protest from Bai Xiachen at his mother. But I don't leave dung at random, mother. And I most certainly don't need a waist cleaner like that ugly one there. Compared to the protesting chirps of the baby fox, Ho Chui Chui on the other hand was obviously stunned beyond belief. How dare this woman try to buy me for his fox as a waist cleaner? What's more, only for a copper coin. Do you know who I am? A thin layer of anger now covers the chubby girl's face as she spoke. In the future I will be someone who enters the chief's manor. You actually have the nerve to compare me with a fox. Do you think that beast is worthy of me? Not going to waste time arguing with the fool across from herself, Bai Yan had already come before the foe. Indeed, you are not worthy of being my fox's cleaner. Can't let her live. 1. Ho Chui Chui was so shocked that her eyes were literally popping. Against that murderous intent, even her breathing had become difficult. Pang! Bypassing whatever guard or defense the chubby girl had, Bai Yan uses her toe to kick the other side's kneecap, causing the foe to fall to the ground in a kneeling position as a result of the pressure. Enraged by the humiliation, Ho Chui Chui swings her head up to be only confronted by those deathly glares. Whatever she wanted to say in retaliation in that split second, it's completely gone and replaced by an involuntary gulp. The whole restaurant was deathly quiet as a result of the sudden move. This woman, she's too brutal. A slight disagreement and she's already beating someone. Do you still want to buy my fox? The heel of her shoe now firmly pressing down against the chubby girl's back, causing a not-so-obvious pain in the victim's bone in the process. Or do you plan to skin him instead for his fur? With every question and word given there, Ho Chui Chui's complexion would grow paler by the second because of the increasing pressure on her bone. In no time at all, a squirt of blood had seeped out of that trembling mouth and brought her back to reality. She's hit a brick wall this time, a cue for trouble beyond her rank. If only I can reveal my identity, then this woman would never dare to do this to me. But Muleng's message continues to linger in that head. If they want to successfully impersonate that woman, then the public mustn't be allowed to know about the matter. Gritting those teeth, Ho Chui Chui ends up holding back her anger. In the girl's mind, there would be other chances in the future for payback. Outrageous. It was just then a loud hollering voice had drifted over from the restaurant's doorway. Following the source of that sound, what came into view of Bai Yan's eye was an elegant face of someone she's met before. Muleng also noticed the inquisitive gaze coming her way right at that moment, but unlike the flat reaction from the former, she herself was absolutely shocked by what came into her view. The very sight of Bai Yan's face was enough to make her go green until it eventually fell into a state of panic. Not missing this, a pang of suspicion promptly sprouted within Bai Yan's head. It seems this person recognizes me. Hold it. Forcing down the unsettling mood inside, the usually high-standing girl slowly strode into the restaurant to confront the other side. Miss, this girl is my friend, I hope you can let this slide out of consideration for my name and face. The plea for mercy immediately warranted a look of gratitude from the chubby Ho Chui Chui. She didn't expect someone as important as Muleng to personally come save herself, let alone claim they are friends. The rest of the occupants inside the restaurant were nominally shocked, of course. There's plenty of envious looks shooting their way now, to the point where Lu Yu, who's the other participant in this fight, had also backed down. The boys practically trying to hide in order to avoid eye contact. The message today was too obvious. As long as they're not brain dead, there's only one meaning: the whole family of the Misty Fairy House will no longer be a third-rate family anymore. Give you face? Bai Yan's gaze squints into a frosty stare. Do I know you? That last part of questioning definitely brought on a new wave of unease within Muleng's heart. She's very much afraid this woman would remember their last encounter and ruin everything she's had planned for the future. Nevertheless, the will to continue with this farce wins out in the end. We are not acquainted. If we are not acquainted, then why should I give you face? Sneering with contempt at this point, Bai Yan cocks a smirk. is your face worth a lot of money? Now Mu Leng could no longer keep up her facade and actually showed a crack in the face. She simply never expected there to be an individual who would dare go against herself in the misty fairy house. If you are unwilling to give me face, miss, then I can only apologize ahead of time. Uncle Mu, please restrain this lady for me. Putting on an indifferent air of someone of superior status, this girl acts like she's above everyone else despite willingly joining in on the fight. But in truth, Mu Leng wanted this outcome from the very start. She only needs an excuse to have her people make a move. Then when it comes time, they could just make up some lie about it being an accident when they harm or kill off the woman. Yes, miss. Upon giving the confirming word, an old figure suddenly snakes out from behind the crowd and shot for Bai Yan's neck using his hand as an arching arrow, reaching to pierce through the skin and the main arteries. This will be the one and only lesson to you. If you try to hit on my family's fox again, then I won't just throw you out of a restaurant. Patting her hands together to remove some of the dust, Bai Yan then returns her attention back to her son, who's still quite irritated by the whole mess. Since today's lunch is already ruined, why don't we go home and I will cook you some dishes instead? Lighting up in the eyes as expected, Bai Xiaqin nodded his head profusely in agreement. Honestly, that licking tongue was all the answer he needed to give to show his mother he's very happy with the suggestion. Let's go then. Under the astonishing gazes of everyone, Bai Yan ignores the looks and proudly walked out of the restaurant with her son in arm. And it's unsure if it's intentional or not, but when she came out of the doorway, her feet had ended stepping over Ho Chui Chui's body, who was still sprawled all over the ground from the painful toss. The foolish girl was spinning in the head to begin with, now to be trampled again in her injured state. It's almost enough to completely knock her out for good after she sprayed out a mouthful of blood. But the angriest person here wasn't the beaten victim though, it's Mu Leng, who's been completely ignored to the sideline. In light of the silence she's showing off to the public, those shaking fists were the biggest giveaway of how irritated she truly was inside. This woman must die. I will never let her live. Thinking up to here, Mu Leng's dark personality promptly takes over and returns her back to the old self of deceit and pretense. Slowly coming before the chubby girl, if you can still move, then get up, I have something to say to you. Can't let her live. 3. Still in her dizzying state, Ho Chui Chui originally wanted to get some help in climbing up. Unfortunately for this chubby lady though, Mu Leng outright ignored her reaching hand and bypassed herself. In the end, she could only grit those teeth and get up by herself after much struggling and chased after that moving back. Mu Manor, inside the study room. Mu Leng's gaze was dreadfully cold as she eyed the ignorant wench who disobeyed her orders. Did you forget the things I said to you before? Cowering with her head hanging low, Ho Chui Chui makes a heavy gulp before defending herself. I've been starving myself for the past few days, I really can't hold myself back any longer. Pang! Slamming the table with her hand, Mu Leng snaps at the fool. Do you want to be a person of status or what? Do you want to be that Huan Yin's benefactor? Do you want to get payback on that woman from today? Following the re-emergence of Bai Yan's face in her mind, Ho Chui Chui's face promptly turned ugly like a witch's. IDO. Since you do, then take this and eat it. Rummaging through her sleeve pocket, Mu Leng slowly pulls out a certain little pill to hand to the other side. A pang of unease swiftly takes hold after seeing the strange beady little thing. Please. I didn't do anything to deserve poison, please don't. Getting irked by the sudden outburst, the usually high-standing lady was quickly reaching her limit with this idiot. This is not poison, it's a fitness Dan pill. Fitness Dan pill? Showing a startling light in her eyes, Ho Chui Chui didn't understand the meaning for this. Yes, that's right. Unlike a facial Dan pill that can only change a person's face, this fitness Dan pill will change a person's body shape to their liking once consumed. Giving a good moment to let her words sink in. As for the new look you should take, I think that woman from today is good choice. Eat the pill and think of that person's body while doing so. In light of the doubt regarding the plausibility of said effect, Ho Chui Chui wouldn't deny such an opportunity like most girls out there would. Now I won't have to starve myself anymore. Miss Muleng, why don't you give me a facial Dan pill as well? This way I can completely become like that woman, how about it? Just remembering the stunning appearance of Bai Yan's existence was enough to make the chubby wench smirk with glee. If I can have such a sexy body and face, then what man couldn't I get? Even the young lords would fall under my skirt if I willed it. I don't have a facial Dan pill. One could even make out the veins on Muleng's forehead at this point. Humph, even if I did have one I would never give it to such a person like this. Oh. Replying with a look of disappointment, Ho Chui Chui nevertheless composes herself to get back on track. In a flick, she shoves the thing into her mouth and allows the image of Bai Yan's perfect body to manifest in her head after closing her eyes. Then, by the time she opened them again, it was exactly as foretold. That chubby body figure was nowhere to be found anymore, only the thin dainty figure of a fine model that had the perfect assets in the much-needed places. This will only last for 3 months at a time. By then you will need to retake the fitness Dan pill in order to maintain this shape, you understand? Raising a smirk, Muleng allows the foolish wench to bask in the glory of her new body before bringing up the bad news. And I also need to tell you one thing. This pill also has a side effect. After taking it, you can no longer have children. What? Shooting up her head in terrible fright, Ho Chui Chui became ghastly. Please don't bluff me. As a woman, if I can't have a child, then how am I supposed to marry in the future? You don't have to worry about that. Don't forget, I'm the most talented alchemist within the Misty Fairy House. Over time, I will inevitably become a 7th grade alchemist, and then I can make all the cure you need to regain that ability. Though the statement was a bit over the top in terms of arrogance, this high-standing lady was indeed a 4th grade alchemist at the tender age of 20-something. As she ages, it's not out of the question for her to reach that amazing feat after a few decades. Can't let her live, really? Ho Chui Chui sounded hesitant nevertheless. But upon recognition of how talented Muleng was, she stuffed her doubt back inside at the end. Miss Muleng, I hope you won't forget me when you reach the 7th grade. Rest assured, I'm a person who keeps my promises and would never go back on my words. Now I'm going to first send you to the Dragon River for our plans to work, and do not ever forget the words I said to you. The appearance of Ho Chui Chui naturally couldn't be introduced by herself, otherwise that womanizer Sun Huan would definitely begin suspecting of something. Inside the study room of the Mu Manor. Elder Muzhen was just in the middle of going through her books when a voice from the outside interrupted her work. Though a bit annoyed, the old beauty summoned the individual anyways. Come in. Elder. The person was Uncle Mu, who was charged with following Muleng today to the restaurant. I inadvertently discovered something today while protecting the young miss. What's the matter? She frowns and paid closer attention. I've learned of Zhongnan and Zhongbei taking in a new disciple. A shocked look instantly takes over the old beauty's eye. Growing stern and cold now, those 2 old-timers actually took in a disciple. I thought after all these years they would be disheartened and have given up on life. Elder, should I send our people to assassinate the girl? A gleam of murderous intent twinkles within the old man's eye, indicating he's not beyond such dirty methods. The Misty Fairy House may not allow confrontation between its members, but that doesn't mean there aren't other methods under the table where they could take charge. For example, the slaying of the 2 brothers' first disciple was exactly such a case. In the end, Zhongnan and Zhongbei didn't even know their precious apprentice was murdered by someone else and only assumed it was an accident. But that's not the best part. As a result of that order from way back, the once leading figures, Zhongnan and Zhongbei, of the Elder Council has now fallen from grace and could only stand at the bottom of the ladder, unable to move forward again because of their idle cultivation. Humph. Muzhen huffs with displeasure. It was precisely these 2 old farts who supported the young lord when he mingled with a mundane woman from the outside. I wanted to use forceful means to break off their relationship, but they kept insisting on going against my plan, sending my opinion to deaf ears. But what of it? If I can't beat them in the open, then I can beat them in the shadows. If they weren't so stupid to begin with, then they never would have fallen into their current decrepit state. Just thinking of the past would be enough to make Muzhin's eye flare up with fire. Furthermore, simply killing their first disciple and freezing their cultivation is nowhere close to being enough to dispel my hatred for them both. Mu, Senior, I will leave this matter to you. I don't want to see anyone related to those two alive again. If one dead disciple is not enough, then I will see to it their second one is dead as well. Be assured, Elder, I won't let that lassie live for long. There won't be any evidences to point the incident back to us either. Giving a satisfied nod over her subordinate's smart wording, they owe me. Even if I kill their disciple, it's their fault and theirs to bear. That girl from back then is nothing but a mundane. How can she deserve the young lord's love? And if those two brothers are going to side with that bitch, then they will owe me for life. If going by the inhabitants of the Misty Fairy House, the residences here could not compete with the mainland in terms of number, of course. However, the amount of land they controlled and occupied definitely matches up on that end. It's just that. For any family with a certain level of status, they would most certainly control a mountain range that connects to the main mansion regardless of it being thousands of meters long. Can't let her live. 5. At this moment atop of Back Mountain to the Zhong Manor, Bai Yan was just in the middle of meditating to absorb in the surrounding energy. Where did Xiaochen go? Opening her eyes, she was a tad surprised to find her son missing from the area and with no sign of his whereabouts. As a mother, Bai Yan's naturally worried and was quick on the uptake to look for the boy, especially in his current fox form when he's at his weakest. Just that when she did so, a fierce killing intent had caught her attention from behind and caused that moving leg to stop. Die! Towards the unmoving image of his target there, Uncle Mu's confidence promptly swelled and reinforces his will to attack. However, it's unsure if it's just coincidence or intentionally, but at the last moment when the strike's about to land, the woman's footstep had swung around to one side and allowed that body to escape the hit. Though slightly startled at having missed there, the senior didn't back down and wanted to press on with his efforts. That was until he felt that unfluctuating gaze coming right back at himself. Did you lure away the two guardians my two shifas assigned to me? Bai Yan asks with a mild tone. That's right, Senior Mu answers with a deep wrinkle on his temple. I did lure them away, but don't worry, they're very safe because my target is only you. He has a very high standard when doing things. Unless they're part of his list, he won't touch anyone else uninvolved. Then where's my fox? Bai Yan continues to ask. What fox? I don't know what you're talking about. Now Senior Mu's frown had become very deep, as was his patience over the incessant questioning. Bai Yan on the other hand showed a look of relief after confirming her son's safety. It looks like Xiaochen only went out on his own to play and not because he's been kidnapped by someone else. Speaking about it, I should be thanking you. Smirking openly now, Bai Yan's gaze was full of laughter like a cat playing with a toy. What? The old man seems shocked, unsure of what to make of the other side's meaning. I'm thanking you for removing everyone away that could be a hindrance, this way I can act without worry. Now that smile on her face didn't seem so friendly anymore, it's downright dangerous and threatening as she firmly strode towards the assassin. Meanwhile, at the same time, her true strength as a monarch-ranked cultivator was in full bloom, leveling the ground with her pressuring aura and turning the sky gray. You're a monarch rank? Utterly shocked by this quick turn of events, Senior Mu could feel his heart pounding. Though the Misty Fairy House was considered to be one of the three major powers of this world, they are still within the realms of reason. As such, any monarch rank would be considered a powerhouse here regardless of their nature and would most certainly warrant an invite from the acting chief to join the Elder Council. Run! Pumping with adrenaline, that's the first thought that came to this old-timer's mind as he made a hard dash for the mountains. you know too many things already, so don't even think about leaving. The voice was like the devil's, drifting into Senior Mu's ear and reinforcing the fear inside his heart. But if you tell me who ordered you to come kill me, then I might just leave your body intact afterwards. For those who want her life, Bai Yan has never been one to hold back. I would never tell you. The elder viciously yells back the reply while still fleeing for his life. Is that so? Not minding this at all, Bai Yan's hand casually raises up to take aim at her target. Next second a burst of flame ignites out of the blue and enshrouds the elder's body, causing immense pain in the process. Can't let her live. 6. Even if you burn me to death, I won't say it. Bloodshot in his eyes, Senior Mu refuses to budge despite imminent death. Then so be it. Not minding this at all, Bai Yan carries out her words by following through with the threat. Bang! Turning her fist in a mountainous wave of energy, the crushing blow instantly turns the stubborn old fool into mush, killing him with no chance at life in doing so. Oops, I think I just went overboard there. Rubbing that nose of hers in embarrassment, Bai Yan shamefully strode towards the remaining corpse of the foe in order to salvage the situation. Senior Mu's last moment before death definitely didn't feel good, the pain was sharp and crushing. Even so, at least the process was quick and left him free to move on to the afterworld. Or that's what he thought until he felt a sharp intense pain ripping at his soul. And sure enough, by the time he's managed to adapt to the sunlight in front of himself again, the man was horrified to discover the terrible truth. Bai Yan was indeed tearing at his soul and ripping it from his corpse. This could no longer be considered a simple act of fear, it's downright torture. He's always thought that after a person's death, their soul would automatically break away from the flesh, but now he's being grabbed and ripped away by a human hand. Now are you going to tell me who instructed you, or do I have to take further measures to make you talk? Gripping the soul firmly in place with one hand, Bai Yan slowly moves a ball of blue flame with the other to reaffirm her threat. Monster. This was the only description he could use to describe Bai Yan's existence at the moment. This woman is a monster. No, she's more frightening than a monster, she's a devil. I will speak. When the soul's about to make contact with that eerie-looking flame, the senior's last ounce of stubbornness had finally crumbled. I will tell you everything, just keep that fire away from me. If it was just material pain then he could still bear it, but it's one's soul, his soul. It's not common knowledge, but as someone who's from the Misty Fairy House, Senior Mu understands that damaging a soul meant the pain would manifest by several folds and more depending on the method. If you had obeyed from the beginning then none of this would need to happen, you know. All smiles there, Bai Yan squints those foxy eyes to show her mischievous side. In light of the mesmerizing face in front of himself, Senior Mu only found the woman's appearance all the more frightening. In fact, the more she smiled, the more his heart trembled. If I had known her strength would be like this then I would never have resisted. The one who sent me to kill you wasn't Mu Leng. It's her Shifu elder Muzhen. Muzhen? Slightly wrinkling her brow over the name, do we have a grudge or something? Why would she send an assassin after me? No, you and her do not have a grudge, it's Zhongnan and Zhongbei. She has a grudge against the two brothers, that's why she sent me to kill you in order to get back at them. Pausing a bit, Senior Mu had to take a short moment to come to terms with revealing the biggest secret. Muzhen admires the young lord, that's why she's jealous of that mundane girl who could get the young lord's love. Now this came as quite the surprise for Bai Yan after hearing this explosive news. But isn't Muzhen older than the young lord? If I remember correctly, that woman could even be the guy's mother based on her age group. She's never been much of a discriminatory when it came to one's age difference. After all, there are plenty of couples out there who are dozens of years apart. However, the issue here lies in the fact that Muzhen has a one-sided crush on the poor man, and even went out of her way to go after anyone whom she's jealous of. Yes, it's a shame that our young lord doesn't have the right to choose his own love interest. What, are you implying Muzhen could force Yun Feng to marry her or something? Bai Yan asks, intrigued by the old man's odd sentence right there. It's not Elder Muzhin who can force the young lord, it's a goddess from the celestial realm who is forcing him. Speaking of this goddess, Senior Mu's attitude immediately took a turn for the better. His eyes were full of admiration and worship when speaking. That goddess is not only from the celestial realm, her position is extremely high as well. Do you know about the war between gods and demons from a millennium ago? They say it's all because of her after she captivated the leaders of both sides. Can't let her live. 7. Bai Yan's complexion had gone dark over the claim. The demon lord. Does he mean Ditsang? But then who would be the leader of the gods? All of a sudden, her mind remembers back to the battlefield where she dreamed of an encounter with that white dashing figure. Can it be, the white figure from there is their leader? But what does this goddess have to do with the great war between gods and demons? Now that's something you don't know. This goddess isn't only the mistress of the 4 sacred beasts, she's also the woman whom the demon lord and celestial lord fancied. But unlike the 2 men, the goddess herself only wanted an ordinary life with a regular man. That's how she encountered our young lord and fancied him. Bai Yan became stupefied on the spot. Immediately, a chill spreads across her body and causing that gaze to grow sharp. The mistress of the 4 sacred beasts? How funny. According to Suzaku's telling, the 4 sacred beasts have always been my people. Did I just get someone impersonating me? And the reason for all this nonsense is to rob a man? Perhaps able to sense the frosty air exuding out of Bai Yan's dreaded face too, Senior Mu's soul shrank into a tight ball out of fear right then. Did I say something wrong? Go on, keep speaking. Pursing her lip, she urges the old man to continue. Seeing his captor having no intention of instilling her fury upon him, the senior issues an immediate sigh of relief. Because of that reasoning, the chief wanted to bring the young lord back from his travels. To complete the task, Elder Muzhin was then ordered with the mission to go in place of the chief. That's where she learned of the mundane female getting into a relationship with the young lord. Naturally Muzhin wanted to break the relationship off by proposing drastic means to everyone, but Zhongnan and Zhongbei objected to the idea and blocked it off along with the chief's consent. So that's the reason why Muzhin is filled with hatred for my 2 shifas. Drooping her eyes, a lamenting light flickers within Bai Yan's pupil over the silly reason for the enmity. Of course that's not the only reason, it's what came afterwards that enraged her. The chief knew his son well, so he grew suspicious of Muzhin's story. To confirm the truth, he sent Zhongnan afterwards to bring back the young lord. The act alone was considered to be an insult, hence the bitter resentment. When the story reached up to this part, Bai Yan's lip had undoubtedly curved into a smirk, for she could already guess what's to come, and according to Muzhin's personality and character, she didn't stop, did she? Of course not. The elder sent her own people in secret and assassinated the girl in question. Afterwards she just coined up a fake story saying the girl ran off to marry another mundane due to her falling into temptation. The only reason the lie even worked in the first place was because that person didn't reveal her background, so Zhongnans had no way to locate the mentioned female in the story. Senior Mu's seen firsthand how cruel Bai Yan could be, so he didn't leave anything out from the incident from years ago. Though the old man himself didn't participate in the mission, he's still a close confidant, so many details are privy to his ear. But it's also because of this reason that he didn't realize something was very wrong. For example, the woman in front of himself right now had a very strong resemblance to the girl from back then. Then what about my Shifu's injury, is it her doing as well? Musing for a moment, Bai Yan asks again. Considering her own ability and insight, there's no way she couldn't see through to the hidden injuries suffered by Zhongnan and Zhongbei. It's very likely the reason why the 2 elders are stuck at their current level and unable to progress. Yes, that's exactly it. Before that incident, the 2 brothers are both the first to enter into the middle level of the monarch rank and are both leading figures of the Elder Council. But since they're not the type to be suspicious of others, Muzhin was able to secretly plot against them and caused their progress to stall without further advances. Squinting her eyes, Bai Yan's gaze now carried a gleam wanting to kill. Then why does she want to kill me? Is it just because I took them both as my shifu? In Elder Muzhin's mind, the two brothers owed her way too much and could never atone for their sins. To repay them back for this fact, she murdered their first disciple. Inhaling deeply at the last bit, Bai Yan finally got it and didn't need any more information. Fine then, out of consideration for the honesty you showed, I won't destroy your soul. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.